Chapter 196. Yi Huanyan supported herself against the wall and stood up. Her chest was in pain, and her cheeks were numb. When she touched them, she could feel a hole in them, as if they were swollen. Fourth sister, why don't you come over and play with the eggs? It was Xiao Wu who spoke. Fu Yingxiang was slightly stunned and smiled. You know, I don't play cards and I don't smoke. Xiao Wu held a cigarette between her fingers and knocked it in the ashtray beside the bed skillfully. She raised her eyebrows and said, Up to you. Don't worry about that woman. She's most likely a lunatic. These words were half advice, half warning. Fu Yingxiang frowned and cast a concerned look at Yi Huanyan. She was a little troubled. Yi Huanyan nodded with difficulty, indicating that she understood. She limped towards the toilet. Life here was destined to be gloomy. She accepted her fate. Late at night, the pungent smell of the toilet rushed into her breath, and she could not sleep all night. The next morning, the prison guard came very early and opened the door with a clatter. Xiao Wu rubbed her eyes and raised her head from under the blanket. Sis, are you having breakfast so early today? She had been here for half a year and was very familiar with the prison guard. The prison guard was a woman in her 40s. She glared at her sternly and said in a deep voice, What breakfast? There's a new person here. You guys wake up early and gather for breakfast later. This morning, we have to mow the prison lawn. New person? Sure enough, when Yi Huanyan walked out of the toilet, she saw a thin and weak figure standing at the door. She was holding a plastic basin with her toiletries inside. She lowered her head and did not say a word, just like when she first arrived. Xiao Wu sat up abruptly and said in surprise, Aren't we full here? Where is she sleeping? The prison guard impatiently said, 1847, aren't you leaving in 2 days? I'll let her take 1847's position in 2 days. Do as you see fit. Don't make trouble for me. 1847 was the third sister. She was a blonde woman with a sallow complexion. She was the first person to talk to Yi Huanyan. Perhaps it was because she only had a few days left in her sentence, so she didn't have any ill intentions towards Yi Huanyan. She just wanted to get out of here peacefully. Hearing this, Xiao Wu's eyes froze. It seemed that the words 1847 wants to leave had made him lose his sleepiness. He was even a little annoyed, so he sat by the bed and stared coldly at the woman who had just arrived. What are you shouting for? What did you do? The woman who had just arrived looked very timid. She hugged her toiletries and stood obediently at the door. She whispered, My name is Xiao Yi. I steal things. Upon hearing the word steal, Little Five's eyes lit up. Yo, what did you steal? Yi Huanyan did not understand why she had such a reaction. Fu Yingxiang, who was on her way to the restroom, walked past her and smiled. She lowered her voice and said, Little Five is here because she stole. It turned out that she had met someone in the same industry. It was a bit ridiculous, but because this woman was here, because she stole things, Little Five took extra care of her. She looked at Big Sister with a grin. Big Sister, this is my colleague. She can sleep with me tonight. What do you think? Big Sister did not even look up. She hummed in agreement, as if she did not care who was sleeping next to her. In the office of the president of the pleasure group, Xiao Dong sent the documents that needed to be dealt with that day to the office. President Ling, when you were in a meeting at the client company yesterday afternoon, Miss Shang came twice today and asked to see you. However, I did not manage to contact you then, and I did not have time to tell you after work. Ling Han looked up at her. Tell the front desk that no one is allowed to enter without a key card to the headquarters in the future. Xiao Dong was slightly taken aback. Then she nodded. I understand. No matter what the rumors outside were, she had personally witnessed the case in court. In that case, the boss did not go to court for Shang Anren at all. He went to court for Yi Huanyan. Chiao Mu had just finished her work and came back. The two met at the door. Assistant Chiao, I have something to ask you. Seeing Xiao Dong's hesitant appearance, Chiao Mu hesitated for a moment before nodding. I'll come find you after I report to President Ling. Xiao Mu took out a bag of photos from a brown envelope and handed it to Ling Han. Director Wang asked someone to deliver this to me. He asked me if I should hurry and bring her out. In the photo was a thin figure. There was an obvious palm print on her face, which was extremely red and swollen. The prison uniform on her was too big, making her look like a sack. It was as if a gust of wind could blow her away. Ling Han's gaze tensed as he coldly said, "Is there no one in charge of the prison? Didn't you say that everything was taken care of?" Xiao Mu sighed with a troubled expression. "I've asked around. Lanjiang City Prison has a new batch of prison guards rotating shifts. The prison we asked someone to arrange for is full, and only this prison number 4 is left. The people inside all have complicated backgrounds. Even the prison guards turn a blind eye to it." The office was silent for a few seconds before Ling Han's cold voice slowly rang out. "Tell Director Wang that I want to bring her back in 3 days." Before Xiao Mu could reply, there was a commotion at the door. "You can't go in," accompanied by a series of exclamations. A tall and straight man barged into the office. Xiao Dong was behind the man, and he nervously chased to the door. At this moment, he looked at Ling Han cautiously, with a flustered expression. "Director Ling, I'm sorry. I haven't told the receptionist. Ling Han, I have something to talk to you about." Su Nianhua interrupted Xiao Dong. Ling Han frowned as he stared at him in displeasure. "What are you doing here?" Su Nianhua's expression was very gloomy. "I'm here to terminate the contract with you." Xiao Dong was still standing at the door. Xiao Mu glanced at Ling Han's expression and quickly pulled Xiao Dong out of the office, closing the door behind them. Only Su Nianhua and Ling Han were left in the office. "Terminate the contract?" Ling Han sneered. "It's not a rational decision for you to terminate the contract now." Su Nianhua gritted his teeth and tried to suppress the unwillingness in his heart. "As long as you can think of a way to get Yan Yan out of prison, I'll terminate the contract. The penalty for breach of contract won't be based on the contract. You can decide how much you want." Upon hearing this, Ling Han stared at him for a long time without saying anything. "Give me a number." Su Nianhua took a deep breath. If it weren't for the fact that his last option was also cut off, he definitely wouldn't lower himself to beg Ling Han. "It seems that you're really infatuated with Yi Huanyan." Ling Han coldly spat out this sentence with a dark expression. "But what makes you think that I'll terminate the contract with you? And what makes you think that terminating the contract with you can be used as a condition for you to manipulate me?" Su Nianhua's expression froze. "You don't want to terminate the contract with me? You can bring benefits to pleasure, so why should I terminate the contract with you?" Ling Han lowered his head and sneered. "Do you think that everyone is like you, willing to give up everything for a woman? Don't tell me that you can tolerate working with your love rival." Su Nianhua raised his voice and stared at Ling Han in disbelief. When he heard the words love rival, Ling Han raised his eyes and swept a glance at him, and there was a layer of coldness in his eyes. "Work with you? You're just a mere artist who makes money for me. Besides, I don't think you can be my love rival. That woman is mine from head to toe. Even if she dies, she'll be buried in my Ling family's ancestral grave." Chapter 197. Su Nianhua, you think too highly of yourself. Ling Han's voice was not loud, but each sentence was colder than the last. Su Nianhua clenched his fists and looked at Ling Han angrily. "Well, if you don't want to help, I have a way. At most, I'll wait for her for a year. After a year, even if I'm banned, even if I have to leave the entertainment industry, I'll take her away. A person like you has no right to stay by Yan Yan's side." Ling Han frowned. "Do you think she'll go with you? Why won't she go with me?" Su Nianhua's eyes were like torches. "Even if she doesn't love me, does she want to stay by a bastard like you and be humiliated? In this world, no matter where she wants to go, I can put down everything and go with her. Can you do that? You can't do it either." Ling Han suddenly stood up, walked around the big desk, and walked in front of Su Nianhua. At this moment, it was as if a string in his brain had snapped, causing his facial features to distort uncontrollably. His well-defined hands tightly gripped Su Nianhua's collar. The veins on the back of his hands protruded as he said sternly, "She will never go with you. I won't allow it." Su Nianhua's eyes were gloomy. He raised his hand to push him away, but he took a hard punch. His mouth was full of the smell of blood. Blood flowed down the corner of his mouth and fell on his white shirt, staining it red. When it came to fighting, Su Nianhua had never taken this class in his education since he was young. The punch landed squarely on him. But he was not a spoiled child. After so many years of working in foreign bars, he couldn't count the number of times he had met with trouble. He had to know something to survive. He wiped the corner of his mouth and threw an even more ruthless punch. Ling Han didn't expect him to fight back, so he couldn't dodge in time. The fist brushed past his cheek and hit his eye socket. His left eye was immediately bruised. In the end, it was Qiao Mu who heard the commotion. When she pushed open the door, she saw two men who were nearly 9 meters tall fighting each other with their fists and feet. They were both covered in wounds. Qiao Mu protected Ling Han. Xiao Dong held on tightly to Su Nianhua, and his face was full of fear. "Remember, I'm a man of my word. When she comes out, I'll take her away." Su Nianhua wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and turned around angrily. Qiao Mu cautiously examined the wound on Ling Han's face. "President Ling, I'm going to call Dr. Peter over." Ling Han clenched his fists, his expression cold. "You don't have to do what I just told you. Let her stay in there for 2 months." Qiao Mu was slightly taken aback, and she sighed inwardly. After coming out of Ling Han's office, Xiao Dong stopped Qiao Mu. "Assistant Xiao, you haven't told me what I just asked you. When can Secretary come out?" Qiao Mu frowned. Su Nianhua has completely infuriated President Ling. If Secretary Yi wants to come out, she has to at least wait until President Ling calms down. Xiao Dong's face darkened. He was about to open his mouth, but he didn't know whether to complain about Ling Han or Su Nianhua. In the end, he could only stomp his feet and angrily return to his office. Why did he have to do all this? Lanjiang City Women's Prison. After the 7 people in prison number 4 finished their breakfast, they were all arranged to lay out the lawn in an empty field behind the prison. The lawn was very wide, about half the size of a golf course, and there was no end in sight. Sometimes it was used for large-scale activities in the prison. The 5-meter-tall walls were surrounded by electrified barbed wire, and there were people patrolling back and forth. Piece by piece, the turf was brought down from the cart, and then pieced together and laid out on the grass. Xiao Wu squatted down and worked while teasing the new person's name. "Xiao Yi, Auntie, you're taking too much advantage of her. Call her something else." Xiao Yi lowered her head timidly. "Then what do you think I should be called?" "How old are you?" 19. "Younger than me?" "I'll just call you younger sister from now on. If you go out in the future, hang out with older sister." Older sister was sent here because she was plotted against behind her back. Older sister's skills. Yi Huanyan didn't listen to any more words, and they didn't continue because she and Xiao Yi were reassigned by the prison guards to the work group of moving turf. After moving batches of turf from the truck back and forth twice, Yi Huanyan's hands and feet were numb from holding them. She bent over to rest for a while, and when she lowered her head, she caught a glimpse of a cold light from the corner of her eye. She was stunned. 2 meters behind her, Xiao Yi took out a pair of small scissors that were smaller than a palm from under the truck and secretly stuffed them into her sleeve. After stuffing them, she looked around. Yi Huanyan quickly straightened her back and moved the turf toward the other 5 people in prison number 4. What were the scissors used for? Where did she get them? Judging from her gesture just now, she seemed to have taken them out from under the truck near the tire. She most likely brought them in by sticking them to the bottom of the truck's cargo box. Who would stick a pair of scissors under the truck's cargo box for no reason? Prison break? Yi Huanyan frowned. She didn't think of how to break out of prison with a pair of scissors. After lunch, they worked on the lawn for the entire afternoon. Many people complained incessantly, and their enthusiasm for work in the afternoon was not high. Fortunately, there was no need to work overtime in prison. When it was time, they had to go back to their rooms and stay. Xiao Wu, who procrastinated and slacked off, was free after dinner. It took some time to tidy up the lawn. After working for a week, everyone's energy was spent on labor services. The number of people who provoked trouble in prison decreased a lot. Although Xiao Wu still didn't like Yi Huanyan and made things difficult for her from time to time, ordering her to get water to wash her feet and a cup to rinse her mouth, she didn't do anything to her anymore. As for the newcomer, Xiao Yi, she seemed to be very tactful. Every time Yi Huanyan went to get water to wash her feet, she would also come and help. The difference was that the water she got was for Big Sister. Every night before going to bed, there was an unshakable self-study class. In each account, the warden led them to learn about honor and disgrace, values, and a series of so-called moral standards. The warden of prison number 4 was Big Sister. Big Sister read the 8 honors and 8 disgraces in the booklet seriously. After the ordinary prison guards at the door left, she closed the book and said lightly, "Rest." It was obvious that the people in prison number 4 were used to this kind of perfunctory behavior. They returned to their own beds, and Yi Huanyan was ordered by Xiao Wu to get water to wash her feet. When she passed by bed number 4, Yi Huanyan couldn't help but take another look at Big Sister. Xiao Yi had already deftly prepared water to wash her feet and placed it under Big Sister's bed. She was very attentive. "No need, I'll do it myself." Big Sister's voice had a kind of peaceful tone. It didn't sound lethal, but Yi Huanyan faintly felt that she could smell the sonorous aura of knives, spears, swords, and halberds in this peaceful tone. After saying that, Xiao Yi seemed to be stunned for a moment, but she didn't dare to insist. Xiao Wu patted Xiao Yi's shoulder and teased, "What AF * King Cheekbone. No one forced you to do this and that, but you came here to curry favor." Big Sister didn't have any expression. She took off her socks and placed them neatly at the side. She put a pair of smooth, white feet into the water basin and casually flipped open the book, The Way of Marriage, that had never changed. Her background was obviously not ordinary. Chapter 198. She had been here for 2 days, but she still didn't know the names of the people in the cell. No one asked, and she always called them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on according to their age. However, she had a rough idea of where they came from when they were playing cards and teasing each other. Second Sister was a woman from the north. She had a strong physique and was about 1.7 meters tall. Her skin was dark, and she was sentenced to 1.5 years for organizing prostitution. She did not have a good temper, but she listened to Big Sister very well. Third Sister was a thin woman with yellow hair and a sallow complexion. She was half a head shorter than Second Sister. She was caught for selling fake goods. Her case was not serious, and she had been locked up for 3 months. She would be released in 2 days. Fourth Sister was Fu Yingxiang. She did not play cards and spoke very little. Yi Huanyan did not know why she was in the cell, and it seemed that no one knew either. As for Big Sister, it was said that she had committed murder. This was said when they were playing cards. That day, Xiao Wu had a cigarette in her mouth. She was in a good mood after winning a card game, and she was a little dazed from smoking. Here, we usually arrange people according to their crimes. Our cell is different. We arrange people according to their age. At this moment, Big Sister was taken out by the prison guards and had not returned yet. Third Sister, who was playing cards with them, had lost 2 packs of cigarettes. She glanced at her gloomily. Big Sister has been here the longest. If it wasn't for her serious crimes, why would she still be here? I have been here for more than half a year. Then do you know what crime Big Sister committed? Can't you ask her yourself? Third Sister frowned and was a little impatient. At this moment, the prison guards had just sent Big Sister back. She took off her shoes and sat on the bed reading a book. The few of them looked at each other. Xiao Wu snuffed out her cigarette and leaned over to Big Sister, tilting her head and asking, "Big Sister, we have been here for so long, but you have been here the longest. We have never asked you why you were here." Big Sister looked at her and said, "Attempted murder." From Yi Huanyan's angle, she could clearly see that Xiao Wu's throat moved a few times. She swallowed hard and seemed to be very nervous. No one could tell that such a person was a murderer. If it weren't for that dress, Yi Huanyan felt that she would be a rich lady, a rich young lady, a strong woman. In short, she would definitely be a woman from the upper class, noble, elegant, and calm. Little Five forced a smile while trembling in fear. Really? I've never heard you mention it before. Big Sister's expression did not change. There's nothing to say. That person didn't die, so I'm still here. Did she mean that because that person didn't die, she wasn't sentenced to death, or that because that person didn't die, she couldn't escape the punishment of the law? No one understood. But when it came to murder, everyone in the prison believed it. After that, Little Five became even more respectful to his elder sister. Second brother and third brother, on the other hand, had learned to clean their own beds diligently. This was because eldest sister had once said that she did not like a messy environment. As for Xiao Yi, she was even more diligent in fetching water for her big sister to wash her feet. On the third day after the lawn was mowed, the people in the prison had all regained their energy, especially Little Five. When Yi Huanyan came over with the water for washing her feet, she was sitting on the bed and smoking. Yi Huanyan squatted under the bed and looked up at her. The water for washing your feet is ready. Little Five glanced at her and nodded. Yi Huanyan was about to get up when Little Five suddenly raised one of her legs and stepped firmly on Yi Huanyan's thigh. She almost staggered from a step, and her knee hit the ground hard, making a muffled thud. At the same time, a contemptuous voice came from above. "Take off your shoes." Yi Huanyan frowned in pain. Just because she was a few seconds slower in taking off her shoes, she was pulled by her hair and scolded. "What are you doing? Can't you be a little faster?" Fu Xiang couldn't stand it anymore and grabbed Little Five's hand. "Little Five, don't be like this. That's enough." The people in the prison had been together for a long time. Second brother and third brother couldn't stand it anymore and helped to persuade her. When she heard that everyone was helping this woman who had only been here for less than half a month, Little Five got angry and flung Yi Huanyan's hair away. She kicked the water basin over and splashed water all over Yi Huanyan. She fell on the ground, looking very pathetic. "Are you siding with outsiders? Did this woman give you all bewitching pills?" Yi Huanyan bit her lip and didn't say anything. She was already used to the dark life here. Little Five, second brother, third brother, and fourth brother were quarreling with each other. Third brother had a bad temper and was exchanging a few words with Little Five. Second brother came forward to mediate, but was accidentally kicked. He was also angry and started to quarrel. On the other side, Big Sister didn't move. She hugged a book and sat down to wash her feet. Xiao Yi squatted in front of the basin and turned a blind eye to the argument beside her. She held on to the basin and slowly touched the cuff of her other hand. Yi Huanyan wiped the water droplets on her hair. When she raised her head, she saw a cold glint. Be careful. She didn't know what she was thinking at that time. Maybe she saw a chance to die when she wanted to. Maybe she felt that her life wasn't worth much and doing a good deed was not bad. When she grabbed Xiao Yi, the scissors were pointed at her arm and ruthlessly cut through the thin layer of cloth, making a large cut. Half of the wound on her arm was flipped open, and blood flowed freely. The basin in front of Big Sister had been kicked over. When the people heard the noise, they came back to their senses. Fu Xiang, who didn't participate in the war, grabbed Big Sister first and pulled her to her side, increasing the distance between her and Xiao Yi. The five people stared at the scene in front of them in horror. Xiao Yi, who was originally quiet and attentive, seemed to have gone crazy at this moment. She waved the scissors in her hand randomly. Her eyes were red. As she pushed Yi Huanyan, she waved in Big Sister's direction. She staggered as if she had gone crazy. "I'll kill you, I'll kill you, I'll kill you." After Yi Huanyan pulled her away, her whole body was covered in blood from the scissors, but she still held on to Xiao Yi tightly and refused to let go. Two prison guards quickly heard the sound and quickly opened the door. Then they pressed down on Xiao Yi and stunned her with their batons. They roared at the crowd. "Don't move. Hold your heads." Except for Yi Huanyan, who was lying on the side covered in blood. and Xiao Yi, who had been restrained and couldn't move. All the women in prison number 4 squatted on the bed and held their heads, trembling. Just now, they had personally experienced a life-and-death game. To be precise, they were watching. No one would have thought that Yi Huanyan would sacrifice herself to save Big Sister. Her actions were too unexpected. Big Sister stared at Yi Huanyan, who was on the ground, as if she had suddenly come back to her senses. She screamed, "Hurry up and save her! Hurry up and save her! What are you shouting for? We know what to do." The prison guard glared at her. "Two people. Carry her to the infirmary." "I'll go." Big Sister struggled to get off the bed. "You can't do it. Come with us. 1895 is coming for you." The prison guard looked at Big Sister coldly. It was clearly seen in the surveillance video. Number 1895 took the initiative to attack the warden of prison number 4. Chapter 199. When Yi Huanyan woke up, she was lying in the infirmary of the prison. The moment she opened her eyes, she saw a pure white ceiling. She moved, causing a series of pain all over her body. She could not help but groan. She lowered her head slightly and saw the wounds on her body. Her left arm was covered in layers of bandages and a fastener. The rest of the dozen or so wounds on her body were all bandaged, and she had also changed into a new prison uniform. The young female doctor rushed over when she heard the sound. When she saw her open her eyes, she heaved a sigh of relief and asked, "You're awake. Are you feeling unwell? Something like your chest and brain?" Yi Huanyan shook her head blankly. The female doctor smiled. "That's good. If it's an internal injury, we can't treat it here. We have to move to another place. Now it seems that other than the wound on your arm, which is very serious, the rest are minor injuries. When you go back, don't touch the water. Every day, a prison guard will bring you to my place to change your dressing. If they forget, remember to remind them." After the doctor gave a few instructions, someone came to pick her up. She held the fastener on her arm and returned to prison number 4 with the help of 2 prison guards. When the door opened, the eldest sister quickly stood up and personally came over to support her. The prison guard glanced at them. "Don't cause any more trouble." In a place like this, a matter that almost cost someone's life was only a simple sentence. Don't cause any more trouble. The eldest sister and Fu Yingxiang helped Yi Huanyan to sit on the bed. Fu Yingxiang looked at the fastener on her arm and sighed repeatedly. "You're really bold. If that scissors had been a little more slanted, it would have stabbed your chest." The eldest sister sat on the other side of her with a solemn expression. "Why did you save me?" Yi Huanyan was pulling the blanket up. When she heard this, she hesitated for a few seconds before leaning against the pillow and closing her eyes. She said lightly, "I didn't save you." Xiao Wu, who was squatting in the corner, frowned. "Hey, what's with your attitude? Don't think that you're so great just because you saved eldest sister." The eldest sister glared at Xiao Wu, and she immediately lowered her head and squatted back. "You didn't save me. Do you want to die?" She did not respond. "Do you want to die because you were wrongly accused of being a mistress, or because you were bullied here?" When the word bully was mentioned, Xiao Wu lowered her head guiltily. "In life, there's nothing to be upset about. You're not the only one who's been wronged. You were arrested because you lost the case, so you can appeal. However, there are some people who are willing to take the blame for others. They took the blame for nothing and almost lost their lives." Yi Huanyan slowly opened her eyes and stared at her big sister with a complicated expression. Big sister forced a smile. "My husband accidentally killed someone, and I went to jail for him. His woman outside took advantage of this opportunity to take over the magpie's nest and sent someone to kill me. What do you think of my experience compared to yours?" Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. Her voice was hoarse. "The pain of others has nothing to do with my pain. It didn't mean that you could live a happy life only if you thought that there was someone in a worse situation than you. That wasn't the case. Everyone had their own pain. No matter how many examples there were, those were other people's problems." Big sister only snorted coldly. "I just want to tell you that you're seeking death here. In the outside world, the person you're thinking about is with someone else. Don't you feel aggrieved to die in such a place? Looking at you, you must have been pampered and raised by your parents. Speaking of parents, Big Sister frowned. There seemed to be shame in her eyes. My parents raised me for more than 20 years and never touched a single finger on me. For that man, I ruined their face and family business. What about you? Where are your parents? After a while, Yi Huanyan's eyes reddened. She choked and said, "My parents passed away. I'll never see them again." Later on, she couldn't remember how she cried until she lost consciousness in the arms of her big sister. She cried until she fainted, until her voice became hoarse and unpleasant to the ear. Every time she made a sound, it would be painful. Late at night, Yi Huanyan finally fell asleep on Big Sister's bed. Fu Yingxiang sighed at the side and covered her with a blanket. She looked up at Big Sister and seemed to be deep in thought. "Big Sister, is what you said just now true? You didn't kill anyone. Did you take the blame for your husband and go to jail?" The one who spoke was Xiao Wu. She lay on the pillow and rolled her eyes. Big Sister glanced at her. "Why? Do you think you can be Big Sister just because I didn't kill anyone?" Xiao Wu shook her head like a rattle drum. No, you're still Big Sister." After saying that, she muttered, "Just based on your value, I can't afford to offend you even if there were 100 of you." These words fell into Big Sister's ears again. She had heard such words many times before, but she had always ignored them. Today, for some reason, she looked in Yi Huanyan's direction thoughtfully. In the end, her eyes fell on Fu Yingxiang, and she said faintly, "Don't worry. My value isn't the highest here." "Don't joke, you're not the highest?" Xiao Wu blinked and turned to look at Yi Huanyan. "Can number one's value be higher than yours? Isn't she just a white-collar worker?" Big Sister retracted her gaze and gave Xiao Wu a warning look. "Don't make things difficult for her in the future. Apologize to her tomorrow. She's older than you, so call her Big Sister in the future." Xiao Wu was stunned. She thought of what happened today and felt a chill in her heart. She nodded and crawled under the blanket. If she met such a reckless woman, who knew if she would kill her one day? It was better not to provoke her. Not long after Xiao Wu fell asleep, she started snoring. As for Lao Er and Lao San, they were scared out of their wits in the evening and didn't have as much energy as Xiao Wu. They fell asleep before Yi Huanyan. Everyone was asleep, leaving only Fu Yingxiang and Big Sister. Besides Lao San, who do you think will be the first to go out? Fu Yingxiang was slightly taken aback. She turned to look at Big Sister and said bitterly, "I don't know who will be the first to go out, but I will definitely be the last to go out." "Is that so? Your family can bear for you to suffer here?" Hearing this, Fu Yingxiang's eyes showed some vigilance, but she pretended to be relaxed and smiled. "Big Sister, you must be joking. I don't have a background like you and Yen Yen. It won't be that easy to reduce my sentence." Big Sister looked at her faintly with a cold gaze. "Lao San's sentence is up, but she has been locked up for too long. She doesn't have any background outside, so she won't be able to help. The first to go out is probably Yen Yen. I don't understand what you're saying. It's best that you don't understand. I just want to remind you that I didn't want to get involved in your matters, but the situation is different now. Yi Huanyan saved me, so she will be my sister until she dies. Before you ask her to do anything, you should consider whether you can offend some people. I don't want her to take unnecessary risks." Fu Yingxiang chuckled, her expression calm. "Big Sister, you read too many novels. What do you mean by taking risks? I'm going to sleep first. You should sleep early too." She turned around and faced Yi Huanyan. Her smile gradually froze on her face. Chapter 200. The next morning, Yi Huanyan was the first to wake up as usual. Just as she got up, she heard Little Five mumble to Fu Yingxiang, "Get me a basin of water to wash my face first." Yi Huanyan was about to get off the bed, but Fu Yingxiang pulled her back. "You haven't recovered yet." Her voice was neither loud nor soft, but it woke Big Sister up. Big Sister sat up slowly. "I'll get you some water." This time, Little Five woke up with a start. She looked like she had been struck by lightning. She probably remembered Big Sister's warning before going to bed last night. How can I let Big Sister do it? I'll go. Little Five, who was usually the harshest towards Yi Huanyan, changed her attitude. She respectfully fetched water and even wrung out a hot towel. If not for Yi Huanyan being afraid that she would accidentally burn herself, Little Five would have wiped her face personally. This change in attitude was too fast. While Yi Huanyan was washing her face, Big Sister coughed and attracted everyone's attention. Everyone saw what happened yesterday. Yan Yan is my benefactor, so from today onwards, she is my younger sister. You should treat her the same way you treat me. Little Five, switch places with Yan Yan tonight. Everyone was stunned. Little Five was the first to react. She looked troubled. Big Sister, my nose is allergic. I can't smell anything too strong. Then I'll switch places with Yan Yan? Big Sister stared at Little Five with a sullen expression. Little Five was clearly scared by her gaze. She shook her head like a rattle drum. No need, I'm fine sleeping here. After staying here for a few days, Yi Huanyan knew that in this place, using force to suppress was the best method. However, using the carrot and stick was the key to protecting oneself. Her identity was not as complicated as Big Sister's, so it was hard to guarantee that Little Five would not try to curry favor in front of others and backstab them. Little Five looked at Big Sister bitterly. Just as Big Sister was about to say something, Yi Huanyan explained, I'm close to the bathroom, so it's convenient for me to wake up at night. I'm used to sleeping here. Thank you for your kindness. Fu Yingxiang also tried to persuade him. It's not a bad idea for Yan Yan to sleep here. Her left arm is leaning against the wall, so none of us can touch it. If we move to a different position, it's inevitable that we'll bump into each other while sleeping. It won't be good if we get hurt. Only then did Big Sister stop insisting. Xiao Wu also glanced at Yi Huanyan with a hint of gratitude in his eyes. During the meal, Yi Huanyan found out that her elder sister's real name was Zhuang Suqiu. Yi Huanyan was injured, so it was difficult for her to move around. They were the ones who bought the food and brought it back. She looked at the 3 meat dishes in the porcelain bowl, and then looked at Xiao Wu, who was crouching at the side, drooling with envy. She generously picked up a big meatball and handed it to Xiao Wu. I can't eat oily food. Do you want some? Little Five nodded like he was pounding garlic. Everyone in this room had to eat a certain amount of food. Xiao Wu looked like she was not yet 17 or 18 years old. She was still growing, so it was normal for her to be envious of the food. She pinched a big meatball between her left and right index fingers and thumb and ate with a mouth full of oil. Second sister was the most forthright. She laughed out loud. Xiao Wu is like a beggar. Everyone in the room laughed after she said that. Even Zhuang Suqiu smiled helplessly. Yi Huanyan lowered her head to eat. Zhuang Suqiu glanced at her with concern in her eyes. Yan Yan, don't call me Big Sister in the future. It sounds very old. Just call me Sister Qiu. You saved me. When I get out in the future, no matter what difficulties you have, I'll do my best to help you. Yi Huanyan pursed her lips and swallowed the food in her mouth. I didn't think too much at that time. You don't have to take it to heart. Are you saying that I'm not qualified to be your sister because of my identity as a murderer? Big Sister frowned, a little unhappy. Yi Huanyan shook her head and smiled bitterly. That's not what I meant. Who is more guilty than who here? After saying that, she pondered for a while. We all live in the same place. There's no need to get along well with each other. If you want to acknowledge each other as sisters, why don't we all acknowledge each other as sisters? What do you think? As soon as she said that, Little Five, who was squatting on the ground, was the first to raise her hand. I agree. Second sister and third sister naturally had no objections. Third sister scratched the blonde hair on her head in embarrassment and said with a smile, I'm about to leave. It's not a loss to acknowledge a few sisters. They can go out and take care of my business in the future. Of course, I agree. Second sister, on the other hand, spat at her rather straightforwardly. So you're keeping the sisters to buy your unsellable fake goods? I don't dare to acknowledge you as a sister. It'll be bad if you catch your own family. Third sister hurriedly waved her hand, looking aggrieved. If you buy my goods, I'll definitely give you the real deal at cost price. The quality is the same as the counter, and it's half cheaper. That's still charging money. If you ask me, if you acknowledge sisters, you can all come to my place to play. I'll introduce all kinds of friends to you sisters. Before second sister could finish speaking, she realized that everyone in the cell was silent and staring at her in shock. She was stunned for a few seconds, then slapped her thigh as if she had been insulted. What are you thinking? Would I cheat you? I won't sell you. I don't have anything fun at my place. I don't just rely on selling sex. Moreover, I'm planning to change my profession this time. I'll do something more elegant and open a proper bar in the future. Wasn't everyone afraid that they would be sold if they weren't careful? Before they could heave a sigh of relief, second sister touched her chin and said, "After all, brothels now like to be more elegant. We have to follow the market closely." Everyone's faces stiffened. It was really easy to change a leopard spots. In the end, it was Fu Yingxiang who burst out laughing and dispelled the awkwardness. If you ask me, there's no need to talk about taking care of each other. It's fate to be able to meet here. Let's just become sworn sisters. In the future, if you have any difficulties when you go out, help if you can. If you can't, at least give some encouragement. That's pretty good. Her smile was like a spring breeze. Zhuang Suqiu, who was very opinionated, also nodded thoughtfully. Second sister said, "Fourth sister, with your looks, you'll definitely be the best at my place." Everyone's faces stiffened again. Second sister smiled awkwardly and quickly waved her hand. "I'm just joking. Didn't we say we were going to acknowledge each other as sisters? Should we prepare some props? Dripping blood or kowtowing?" Yi Huanyan also frowned. She had never participated in a swearing ceremony with such a strong atmosphere. She felt like her life had suddenly changed from a heart-wrenching drama to a martial arts drama. It was Zhuang Suqiu who coughed lightly and said slowly, "There's no need for that. It's fine as long as we know each other's background. Introduce yourselves, where you're from, and what you've done. Tell us your real names." She deliberately emphasized the last 4 words. When she said this, everyone seemed to have some reservations. After all, other than her and Yi Huanyan, everyone here really had a criminal record. There was no need for that. In the end, it was Yi Huanyan who mediated the situation. "It's not an interrogation. We're all sisters, and we're just casually chatting. Besides, we're already here, so what's there to hide? As for any privacy issues, weigh it yourself. You don't have to say it, but what you say has to be true, okay?" Chapter 201. The remaining 4 people looked at each other. In the end, Xiaowu swallowed the meatball in her mouth and raised her oily hand. "Then I'll go first. My name is Chunin. I'm the last in the family, so everyone calls me youngest sister. You can continue to call me Xiaowu. My family runs a martial arts center." She paused for a moment, as if she was in a dilemma. Everyone was stunned when they heard the words martial arts center. Her family owned a martial arts center, so how could they teach a little girl to steal and steal? Third sister was the first to react. She asked hesitantly, "Chun? Your surname is Chun? Your family runs a martial arts center? What's the name of your martial arts center?" Third sister sold fake goods in the underworld. She knew a lot about the underworld, so she was more sensitive to such things. In fact, she was right to be sensitive. Xiaowu pursed her lips and said reluctantly, "Elite Martial Hall." Everyone was shocked. Second sister was the first to laugh. "Xiaowu, can you not brag too much? I can even say that I'm Chun Jun's granddaughter." "Then you're my aunt." Xiaowu looked serious and seemed a little angry as she muttered, "I knew that you wouldn't believe me even if I said it." Yi Huanyan remembered that when she was being beaten, her moves were indeed different from other girls. Other than pulling hair, she had other moves. If she wasn't busy arguing with Fu Yingxiang and the rest that day, she would have been the one to save Zhuang Suqiu. Thinking of this, Yi Huanyan said seriously, "Go on, I believe you." Everyone looked at Yi Huanyan and was a little surprised. Xiaowu was stunned and then curled her lips. What's there to say? The elite martial hall isn't that great. Anyway, I'm the one who's looked down on the most in the family. I wasn't good at martial arts since I was young, but they insisted that I learn it. In the end, I couldn't take it anymore and ran out of the family. I've been on my own, but I'm still alive now. The profound martial hall was nothing special. But in the international wushu competition and the national wushu competition, at least 6 of the top 10 were selected by the Jingwu Hall. The gold, silver, and bronze medals were always taken by the Jingwu Hall. In the eyes of foreigners, the Jingwu Hall's wushu was probably equivalent to China's table tennis. There were countless branches of the elite martial hall all over the country. He just didn't know which branch Xiao Wu's family had opened. Third sister was the most excited. She asked, "Who is Chun Li to you? Do you know him?" Chun Li was the champion of the previous national martial arts competition and was ranked in the top 10 in the world. "Oh, my second brother." The 3 words fluttered in the wind made the third sister jump up from the bed excitedly. "What did you say? You are the younger sister of Chun Li, the head of the elite force hall in Bianzhou." The Bianzhou General Hall was the place where the Jingwu Hall was founded. That was to say, if what Xiaowu said was true, then the entire Jingwu Hall belonged to her family. She was not the eldest daughter of a branch, but the daughter of an authentic Jingwu family. Everyone was shocked by third sister's reaction, except for Little Five. Little Five sighed, her face dignified. "But it has nothing to do with me. Third sister, you think that all the glory belongs to the Jingwu Hall. I am just their shame. They wish that I didn't exist." Everyone glanced at third sister. She quickly put away the respectful look on her face and coughed dryly. "That Little Five, don't be discouraged. You are equivalent to starting from scratch. That's pretty good. You are the most honest, rich second generation I have ever seen. You also think so?" Little Five's eyes lit up. "I can at least support myself, right?" Third sister nodded repeatedly and then asked, "That, if you go home, can you help me get an autograph photo of your brother?" Everyone was speechless. Second sister and third sister's life experience was nothing special. It was just that their work was a bit shameful. Second sister's original name was Su Hong. She used to work in a bar street in Lanjiang City's Hohai. As for her work, she was a mother. As the name suggests, she took care of prostitutes. In this era where people laughed at the poor and not at the prostitutes, it seemed that there was nothing to criticize. And she swore to the heavens, "I have never done anything like trafficking. The girls who come to me are all willing to come to me. I only took them in and introduced them to business because I pitied them. Arresting me is equivalent to cutting off their rice bowls." I am not convinced. If you were to tell her that if there was no business, there would be no killing, she would frown and say, "I didn't kill anyone or set fire to them." Men and women, how many people abandon them in the end after doing it for free? Nothing is as practical as taking some money. Yi Huanyan felt that if Su Hong was given a bit of power, she would probably advocate for legalizing prostitution in the country. Third sister was called Gu Fengfeng. She was caught because she sold a batch of face cream from a certain hall. She caused a disfigurement on someone's face and caused serious injuries. That was why she was sentenced. I already told my man to just make some flour or something edible to fool them, but he didn't listen. He wanted to develop something that has the same effect as the counter. How many researchers created the counter? If he could develop it successfully, I would be able to go to the moon. In the end, you see, both of us are involved. Yi Huanyan and the others only knew that Gu Fengfeng and her man were sentenced together. It was just that the man's crime was more serious, and he would be released a year later than her. When it was Zhuang Suqiu's turn, she was stunned. "About my matter, when we talked about it last night, everyone was there, so there is no need to say. In the future, if the girls have any difficulties, they can look for me. I can help a little, big or small." The few of them nodded. Only Gu Feng carefully asked a question. Big sister, when I bought the fake clothes, I heard that the most famous clothing factory in our area is the property of Zhuangyu Group. Didn't you say yesterday that your family makes clothes? Do you have any contact with this factory? Can you do me a favor? I'm going out in 2 days. I don't have the money to start a business, so I want to. Hearing this, Zhuang Suqiu frowned and thought for a while. Are you talking about the factory in the western suburbs of Lanjiang City? Gu Feng nodded. You have connections, right? I remember when I came in, I heard that the quality of the clothes in the factory was not up to standard, and they were going to close down. When you came in, they didn't close down. They closed down, but those clothes that are not up to standard, can they be sold to me at a cheaper price? Anyway, they can't be shipped to the counter, right? It's not a problem, but when you sell them, you will probably have to remove the tags and change them. They can't use the name of Zhuangyu Group. Okay, no problem. Big sister, how many clothes can you give me? I don't have money now. I have to get my first bucket of gold before I can give the money. I'll give them all to you. When these 4 words came out, Gu Feng was stunned and couldn't speak clearly. All to me. Big sister, you're not joking, right? You have so much influence? Zhuang Suqiu smiled faintly. Zhuangyu is my grandfather's name. The current president of the company is my mother. Chapter 202. Those who did not do business might not know about the Zhuangyu Group, but they would definitely have worn the clothes sold by the Zhuangyu Group when they were young. It was the oldest domestic clothing brand, and now it was involved in various industries. It was just that the current CEO of the Zhuangyu Group kept a low profile, so she rarely showed her face in public. Everyone in the circle knew that the founder of the Zhuangyu Group, Zhuangyu, only had 3 daughters. Back then, it was the eldest daughter who found a son-in-law who married into the family. However, the eldest daughter's belly was disappointing. After so many years, she only gave birth to 1 daughter, Zhuang Suqiu. The Zhuang family wanted Zhuang Suqiu to find a son-in-law who married into the family, and she did do so. However, the man she found was no longer under the control of the Zhuang family. That man went from being unknown 10 years ago to using the Zhuang family's capital to establish a media company that gathered many popular celebrities. It was Phoenix Media, which was comparable to Pleasure Media. Now he had opened up countless industries through Phoenix Media. Although it was not an industrial chain, it was faintly suppressing the Zhuangyu Group. The Zhuang family was a legitimate wealthy family. As for Zhuang Suqiu, she indeed had the noble aura of a wealthy family. Her dignified magnanimity and the various kinds of character that she could still maintain in this kind of place were incomparable to ordinary people. Among them, the one who was the most secretly shocked was probably Yi Huanyan. Fu Yingxiang did not know, but the other 4 did not seem to feel the concept of a group. They only felt that it was a big company. Previously, they already knew that Zhuang Suqiu was not an ordinary person, so they were not too surprised. Yi Huanyan was the only one who knew the status of the Zhuangyu Group in the business world. She admired the current CEO of the group very much. She could not help but praise. Sister Qiu, I admire Auntie's ability to manage such a big group all these years. Zhuang Suqiu's smile was a little dim, but she still insisted. When we get out of here, I will bring you to meet her. She will like you very much. When it was Fu Yingxiang's turn, everyone looked at her. She pursed her lips and lowered her gaze a little. My background is not as strange as yours. I am just an ordinary person working in a beauty salon. I was caught because I stole a customer's diamond necklace. When she said this, everyone except Zhuang Suqiu was stunned. Fu Yingxiang's appearance was absolutely beautiful. Compared to the current A-list actresses, she had a more refreshing and refined aura. She was like the daughter of a beautiful brothel that lived under the misty rain in Jiangnan. She didn't look like someone who would steal. Su Hong was a straightforward person and asked on the spot, "Stop fooling around. How do you look like a thief?" As soon as she said that, Little Five immediately became unhappy. He glared at Su Hong angrily. "Second sister, I don't agree with what you just said. When I said that I stole in, you didn't say that. Do I look like one? Hearing this, the crowd burst into laughter. Xiao didn't have the proper posture to sit or stand properly. Her pair of clear eyes kept darting around. Even if she was curious, she shouldn't be so curious. She really looked like a thief who knew how to steal, and a beautiful female thief at that. However, what she said was also true. You couldn't judge whether someone would steal based on their appearance. Fu Yingxiang also spread her hands. To be honest, I really didn't know that it was so expensive at that time. I just thought that it looked good, so I took it. Moreover, I was preparing to resign that day. No one knew that I wanted to take it away on the last day. It was my first time stealing. The crowd reluctantly believed this explanation. However, Yi Huanyan was a little puzzled. Would someone really steal something just because it looked good? Moreover, it was such a beautiful woman, like Fu Yingxiang. However, now that it was her turn, she couldn't care less about it. She didn't even notice that Zhuang Suqiu was looking at Fu Yingxiang with a hint of sarcasm. You should have heard about what happened to me, right? Yi Huanyan said softly and looked at Little Five unnaturally. Xiao Wu shrugged. Don't look at me like that. I only heard about it from the prison guards when they were eating. I just knew that you were a homewrecker and that you deliberately hurt people. I didn't hear the details clearly. After saying that, she smiled sheepishly and said, Well, Sister Yan Yan, don't blame me for being impulsive. My mother was bullied by a mistress, so I couldn't help but feel a little annoyed by what I said. If you are angry, hit me a few times. I won't fight back. She didn't go easy on Yi Huanyan previously. These words were sincere, but it was a little awkward to say them now. Fu Yingxiang teased from the side. Little Five, you really know how to pick the right time. Yan Yan's arm is already broken. If you let her hit you now, won't that be taking advantage of you? When the time comes, you won't even have a single strand of hair on your head, but her arm will be broken, right? Everyone laughed. Little Five touched her hair embarrassedly and said, Then can you wait until your injury is healed before you hit me? When Fu Yingxiang spoke, Yi Huanyan remembered that after this, when many contradictions and awkwardness were triggered, she was the one who easily resolved them by gently opening her mouth. How could a woman like Fu Yingxiang, who had a heart of 7 orifices, steal? She still couldn't figure it out. Fortunately, after everyone laughed, she still had to continue talking about her own affairs. The story was a little long. She had only told it to Ji Xiaoya before. Now that there were so many listeners, and in such an environment, she could speak freely without any scruples. She didn't care about other people's opinions. When she talked about Ling Han's indifferent and cruel behavior toward her, everyone's faces were sullen. When she talked about this historical problem left behind by her parents, everyone's faces were solemn. When she talked about Sheng Enren's repeated backstabbing, Little Five took the lead to stand up with her fists clenched and said angrily, This Sheng Enren, I thought she was a good person. She played the delicate and pitiful heroine on TV all day long. It turned out that she was a complete white lotus, a green tea bitch. Your brother is too blind. Little Five, don't interrupt. Yan hasn't finished yet. Fu Yingxiang reminded her. Little Five squatted down angrily again and didn't forget to scold her. None of the men are good. Thinking that her mother was also promoted by a mistress, and connecting it to her own rebellious character, everyone felt some pity and sadness in their hearts. Later, she was injured. I didn't do it, but I did lose the case. All the evidence pointed to me. She was loved by the people. Yi Huanyan looked sad, and her face was a little pale. She seemed to think of the scene in the court on the day of the final trial. Her heart was still trembling, and she couldn't get rid of it. Everyone was silent. Zhuang Suqiu sighed and was afraid to pat the back of her hand. In fact, it's better to experience it earlier. It's better than to be at my age. It's hard to get rid of it. You're still young. Zhuang Suqiu was only in her early 30s. In addition, she took good care of herself. Her skin was the best among all of them. It was nothing more than because of her temperament, which made people feel that she was old. Yi Huanyan sighed secretly and looked up with a smile. Sister Chiu, you don't look old at all. You're still young. Chapter 203. Prison number 4 could be said to be the most harmonious prison in all of Lanjiang City's women's prisons. Although there were all kinds of people, there were still many hidden talents. At noon, Yi Huanyan was brought to the infirmary to change her dressing. Xiao Wu accompanied her. Gu Fengfeng was brought to the prison by the prison guards to do a background check before she was released from prison. Su Hong was visited by someone. Only Zhuang Suqiu and Fu Yingxiang were left in the cell. When Su Hong left, Zhuang Suqiu was sitting on the bed, reading a book. Her short hair was sticking to the wall, and she looked serious. However, Zhuang Suqiu's natural graceful temperament made her not have the slightest bit of scholarly aura. At this moment, the book in her hand, that had not changed for thousands of years, was even more meaningful. If one were to talk about scholarly aura, Fu Yingxiang had it. Although she never read books, from her name to her appearance, she had this kind of aura. Just by casually giving her a book, she looked like she came from a scholarly family. People would believe it if she said that she was the youngest female professor who had returned from abroad. At this moment, Fu Yingxiang had just finished washing her hair and came out of the bathroom. She sat on a small stool and used a towel to dry her hair. She had the beauty of a lotus flower emerging from the water. "Did you sell the diamond necklace that you stole?" A neither soft nor heavy voice sounded from the cell. It was as if she did not take it to heart and asked casually. Fu Yingxiang was stunned. When she looked up, she saw that Zhuang Suqiu was still reading, as if she was not the one who asked this question. However, there were only the two of them in the cell. If it was not her, who else could it be? She smiled. "I sold it. If I didn't sell it, the sentence would not be so heavy." Fu Yingxiang was sentenced to 3 years. According to the criminal law's provisions for theft, if the theft was serious and the amount was more than 20,000 yuan, the sentence would be up to 3 years in prison. "How much did you sell it for?" Another casual question asked. 22,000 yuan. Fu Yingxiang smiled faintly again. The actual value should be about 10 times that. "I only found out after going to court. However, since it was something that I privately pawned in the pawn shop, I could not get it back. Moreover, it was said to be a token of love. There was no way to forgive me, so the sentence was the highest." It sounded like there was no loophole at all. However, Zhuang Suqiu's eyes flashed with a thought-provoking look. She looked up at her and said, "Didn't you say that you only thought it was a small toy and stole it because you liked it? Since he thought it was just a small toy, why would he send it to the pawn shop? Furthermore, she didn't have any proof of purchase or proof of the jewelry. How could she have the guts to send it to a pawn shop?" A trace of panic appeared in Fu Yingxiang's eyes, but in just a moment, she found a way to deal with it. "I was short of money. I only thought that I could use it as a few hundred yuan. I didn't think of anything else." After she said this, as if to prove that she was not guilty, she deliberately raised her head and looked in the direction of Zhuang Suqiu. Her eyes were slightly stunned. At this moment, Zhuang Suqiu lowered her head and stared seriously at the book in her hand. She even turned a page, slowly. She looked like she didn't care about what she was saying at all. However, in the next second, Fu Yingxiang saw her speak calmly, as if she was talking to the book. "I'm not interested to know what crime you committed to get in here. I'm not even interested to know why you deliberately didn't let the prison guards reduce your sentence. However, if I want to know, it's not that difficult." These words made Fu Yingxiang's face stiffen. She didn't refute Zhuang Suqiu's words like she did the night before. She didn't play dumb either. Instead, she kept silent. This was because she now knew that Zhuang Suqiu did have the ability to do so. When Yi Huanyan leaves, don't ask her to do anything for you. She doesn't need to get involved in your mess. Although she couldn't contact the outside world anytime and anywhere in Lanjiang City's women's prison, and some people's identities weren't easy to find out, there were many coincidences that made her have to treat them with caution. For example, Fu Yingxiang would show goodwill to every new woman who came in. For example, the women she showed goodwill to would always leave very quickly. For example, After those women left, they would all disappear for no reason. After all, Zhuang Suqiu was the daughter of the Zhuangyu group. Although the fact that she was in prison for her husband made her parents unhappy, they only had one daughter. Her safety was more important than anything else. Therefore, no matter how big or small, there would always be someone who would tell her something once in a while. Of course, she was the one who took the initiative to investigate these things. The reason was that she felt that a woman who was as beautiful as Fu Yingxiang wouldn't easily show goodwill to other women. Once this kind of behavior appeared, there would definitely be some mysterious factor. Staying in prison was a bit boring, but she also knew that she had to know the ins and outs of the people around her to ensure her absolute safety. This was especially so when the first batch of people who came to her family told her that they couldn't find out Fu Yingxiang's background. She took it to heart. A woman who even the Zhuangyu group couldn't find out about was actually obediently staying in prison like her. Fu Yingxiang stared at Zhuang Suqiu for a while. As if she had made up her mind, she said in a deep voice, "Other than her, no one can help me. You overestimate her. She's just a secretary of the pleasure group's CEO. She doesn't have much of a background. Since she's here, it means that the man doesn't care much about her. She can't help you." Zhuang Suqiu flipped to another page and said in a low voice, "Keep your thoughts to yourself. After she gets out, no matter who you ask for help, I won't care." However, it wasn't easy to find another woman with such a strong background who would still be in prison. Fu Yingxiang gritted her teeth. "What if I promise that nothing will happen to her?" "What promise do you have?" Zhuang Suqiu raised her head and stared at her with a pair of sharp eyes. It was as if she could see through her heart. The temperature in the prison immediately dropped by a few degrees. The silent atmosphere seemed to be able to stop time. After a while, Fu Yingxiang's eyes were firm as she slowly opened her mouth. "Is the identity of the Wang's daughter enough?" A series of orderly footsteps sounded at the door. After Gu Fengfeng and Su Hong reported their numbers to the prison guards at the door, they returned to the prison one after another. Zhuang Suqiu was still reading a book when they left. Fu Yingxiang was drying her hair. They didn't notice anything strange. As soon as they entered the prison, Su Hong's hearty voice broke the silence in the room. "One of my sisters brought me 2 kilograms of cherries. It wasn't easy to get them in here. They were too strict. They checked me one by one. I'll have plenty to eat later." Yi Huanyan had just returned. Su Hong forced her to stuff a cherry into her mouth. After she chewed twice, Gu Fengfeng suddenly held up the plastic bag of cherries and asked, "Second sister, after they checked the cherries one by one, did you wash them?" Su Hong was stunned at first. Then she looked at Yi Huanyan apologetically. Yi Huanyan's face stiffened. Why did she suddenly feel a little salty in her mouth? Chapter 204. It had to be said that although Su Hong was an auntie, she was really popular. People would come to visit her on visiting days, and when they came back, they would bring something back. In the past, Yi Huanyan could not get these things, but now she could benefit from it. While eating the cherries, Gu Fengfeng suddenly sighed with emotion. "If my man was not caught, I don't know if he would want to bring me something." Second sister spat out the kernels into the trash can and said indifferently, "There's no reliable man in this world. I had a lover in the past, but after being caught, he never came even once. Those who came were all my sisters. That's why I say that men aren't as reliable as my sisters." After saying this, she glanced at Fu Yingxiang. "Look at fourth sister. She's so beautiful. Don't tell me she doesn't have a boyfriend? Has anyone come to visit her? Also, our eldest sister always has an assistant coming to visit her." When she said this, Zhuang Suqiu's face darkened slightly. Yi Huanyan quickly glanced at Su Hong, then took a cherry and put it in front of Zhuang Suqiu's mouth. "Sister Qiu, eat some. It's quite sweet." Su Hong seemed to want to say something, but Fu Yingxiang quickly stuffed a handful of cherries into her mouth and said with a smile, "Food can't stop you." Su Hong muttered, her face full of indignation. "What's wrong with your brains? What's wrong with your brains?" Yi Huanyan blinked, looking confused. What did she say? Xiaowu, who was busy eating, suddenly looked up and spat out several cherries into her palm. Sister Hong said that fourth sister is angry out of humiliation. Second sister even knows how to say idioms. Gu Fengfeng said with a teasing smile on her face. Everyone looked at each other and burst into laughter. Only Su Hong could say that her brain was angry. From the looks of it, she probably did not benefit from the 9 years of compulsory education. After acknowledging herself as a sister, Yi Huanyan had a good life in the prison. There was nothing to worry about, and her life was unchanged, but there was a lot of laughter. Except in the middle of the night, when she looked at the high iron window, she would still feel a faint pain in her heart. Jinjiang Park. The shutter door of the garage slowly raised, and the black car stopped steadily. Ling Han got out of the car, subconsciously adjusted the buttons on his suit, and walked into the villa with a frown. Suddenly, a familiar voice came from the kitchen. Ling, the last part of the black chicken soup. Turn off the heat and simmer it slowly. There was a hint of joy in the voice, as if it was filled with expectations for a lover. He couldn't believe it. Without even thinking about it, he strode toward the kitchen. Yi Huanyan, when are you? When he saw the figure in front of the kitchen stove, turning around in surprise, he saw there was a glimmer of light in his eyes, but it dimmed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Ling was stunned for a while. She followed Ling Han's gaze and glanced at the video that was still playing from the corner of her eyes. This is the video of Miss Yi teaching me how to make the soup. I forgot one ingredient and just took it out to watch. There was a look in Ling Han's eyes that she could not understand, and it made her panic for a moment. I'll put it away now and not watch it. Ling Han frowned, turned around and left, leaving behind a few words in an indifferent tone. No need, go do your thing. Ling held her phone, and her gaze fell from the phone to Ling Han's back. She watched as he took off his suit jacket and put it on his arm as he walked up the stairs. Every step was very heavy, and he looked very lonely. There were not many traces of Yi Huanyan in this house. He had ordered that except for the 1/3 of the room, she was not allowed to make any changes to the other places. Even in the shoe cabinet at the door, there was only a pair of her home slippers. All of her things were in that 1/3 of the room. As a woman, there were very few things. For some reason, Ling Han felt that the house was getting emptier by the day. He couldn't help but open Yi Huanyan's wardrobe and take a look at the clothes that hadn't even been removed from the labels. In fact, the only clothes she wore on a daily basis were those for work. These expensive clothes and leather bags were as new as ever. They were all delivered to her with just a call from him to the counter. She left it here untouched. Yi Huanyan's salary was very high. In terms of material things, he had never mistreated her. Moreover, she did have the ability to earn that kind of salary at pleasure, but she almost never bought anything expensive for herself. Even her clothes were very few. She wore nothing more than shirts, jeans, sweaters, and jeans. They were all in low-key and mild colors. It was as if she had never thought of dressing up to be outstanding. He knew that Yi Huanyan was different from other women, but he could not explain why. But when he thought of her, he could clearly feel that she was different from other women. He could not bear to part with every bit of her. His fingers brushed past the clothes rack, and then fell on a pure black dress with black lace and white flowers inlaid at the corners. This was the dress that Yi Huanyan had worn at the end of last year's annual party. When he touched that dress, almost at the same time, Sun Yanhua's face flashed in his mind, followed by the scene of them walking the red carpet at the annual party. The anger between his brows finally converged on the words that Sun Yanhua had said that day when he slammed the door and left. In any case, I will definitely take her away. Clang. The clothes rack hit the wooden board, followed by the sound of cloth tearing in the air. In Ling Han's cold eyes, that dress was torn into 2 pieces and fell to the ground like a crumpled rag. His woman would be his until death. He would not allow anyone to covet her. In the presidential suite of a certain 5-star hotel in Lanjiang City, a silver-haired man stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, the loose gray robe accentuating his broad back. The sound of water splashing could be heard in the room, and on the frosted door of the bathroom was a deliberately seductive figure of a woman. The assistant behind him looked straight ahead and said respectfully, "Young master, according to the clue of Jiang Milan, our people have checked all the people who were in contact with her. We confirmed that her first marriage was 20 years ago, and 26 years ago, Jiang Milan was indeed a nurse at Lingjiang Hospital. She was addicted to gambling and owed a lot of debts." The silver-haired man, who was addressed as young master, slowly turned around and stared at the assistant. "Has there been any movement from that Ling Han in the past 2 days?" The assistant became even more respectful, as if he didn't dare to look into his eyes easily. He lowered his head even more. Ling Han's assistant has been in frequent contact with the prosecutor's office in Lanjiang City these past 2 days, but there doesn't seem to be any movement from the women's prison. Hearing this, the silver-haired man frowned, seemingly displeased. "We're not waiting for him. I'll leave this matter to you." "We're not waiting." The assistant was slightly stunned. But they went to the prosecutor's office to find someone to mediate this case. The silver-haired man sneered with a hint of disdain between his brows. "I'm afraid he still plans to mediate in his heart for a while. We have to let him know that there's always someone better out there. He's not the only one who can cover the sky in Lanjiang City." Chapter 205. The silver-haired man's tone was full of coldness, and there was a cold air between his eyebrows. The assistant knew that he didn't have a good impression of Ling Han, so he didn't dare to ask more. He nodded in agreement, but he still didn't leave. He lowered his head and bowed, waiting for his orders. "After the matter is settled, I'll pick her up personally." As soon as he finished speaking, a woman's coquettish voice sounded in the bedroom. "Master, it's getting late. It's time to rest." This voice had the effect of ecstasy. Even the assistant, who had been motionless like a wooden stake since he entered the door, trembled and became a little restless. The conversation was interrupted. The silver-haired man looked in the direction of the bedroom, but he didn't look unhappy. "Can't wait." He curled the corner of his mouth. The woman leaning against the door frame was not afraid of the presence of others. She raised her hand and lifted the hem of her skirt, revealing her snow-white thighs. Her eyes were like silk as she bit her lip and said, "I just think that you should take care of your body and rest early." "Oh, is that so?" The silver-haired man had a thought-provoking smile on his face. "That's true. You should rest early." The woman's eyes moved, and she walked forward boldly. Her seaweed-like hair draped over her shoulders, and her wine-red silk nightgown revealed a scene that made people's blood boil as she walked. However, her every move was flirtatious, and it was not something that ordinary women could compare to. The silver-haired man stared at her for a while. Suddenly, he looked at the assistant and said casually, "What do you think of her?" The woman's footsteps paused slightly, as if she was stunned for a moment, but she quickly returned to normal. Men always like to compare. Letting an assistant evaluate her was just to show off that he had such a rare treasure. The next second, the man pulled her into his arms and took a deep breath of the fragrance of her hair. This action made her confirm her thoughts just now, and she smiled even more charmingly. The assistant's expression didn't change as he spat out 2 words. "Stunning." Hearing this, the woman pouted and raised her hand to hit the silver-haired man's chest. "You're so annoying." The silver-haired man's eyes didn't move, but he had already pulled his arm away from the woman's waist. He said calmly, "Then she's yours tonight." The woman was stunned. She immediately thought it was a joke and said embarrassedly, "Master, don't joke around. Even if it was a joke, no one liked to be verbally delivered back and forth as a trade item." The assistant was not surprised. She looked up at her with a trace of pity in her eyes. Her tone was indifferent. "I will send her safely back to where she came from." The woman's expression changed. "Master, I should rest. Didn't you say so?" The silver-haired man looked at her, and the corners of his mouth curled up. "It was very charming. Since you can't wait, I'll find someone for you. Isn't that good?" The woman seemed to want to say something, but under his suddenly disgusted gaze, she couldn't say a word. She followed the assistant in a daze. It wasn't until she reached the door of the suite that she suddenly realized what was going on. She clenched the door frame and shouted at the top of her lungs, "Grandpa, I won't leave. I don't want anything. I only want you. I don't want any status. I don't even want you to love me. I don't want anything. I just want you to let me stay by your side." The assistant stood behind the woman and said coldly, "Young master didn't intend to give you all that you said." After saying this, he sighed as if he was talking to himself. "I'm afraid he won't give it to anyone." The soundproofing in the room was very good. Other than the first inevitable scream of the woman, the world was completely silent after the door was closed. The silver-haired man sat by the bed. The cross on his earlobe glowed coldly under the light. He opened his wallet and quietly looked at the woman in the photo. His eyes were filled with all kinds of complicated emotions. There was tenderness and regret. The next morning, Lanjiang City Women's Prison. Gu Fengfeng was released after her sentence. Prison number 4 was approved to hold a small farewell party. Zhuang Suqiu thought of a way to get a cake. It was the simplest kind of cream cake, but it was already an amazing thing in the prison. Xiao Wu was dissatisfied that Gu Fengfeng gave her a big piece and shouted, "Third sister, you're already out. There's nothing good to eat, but you're still snatching it from me." Gu Fengfeng was very stubborn. She refused to give it to Xiao Wu and said stubbornly, "This is my farewell cake. If I eat it, I'll be a real sister. Why can't I eat it? I have to eat it, and I have to eat more than all of you. Only then can I work hard and work hard when I get out." Xiao Wu was angry. She angrily stuffed a big piece into her mouth and cut another big piece. Su Hong saw that she was eating impatiently and wiped the cream on her face. She wiped the cream on the tip of her nose. Coupled with the red cream on her lips, she looked like a clown. Everyone laughed. "It's food, don't joke about it." Little Five rubbed his nose and licked his fingers with a righteous expression. Yi Huanyan was also a playful person. As soon as Xiao Wu finished speaking, she also wiped the cream on her forehead. Xiao Wu stomped her feet. Fu Yingxiang also joined in the fun. Her cheeks fell. Xiao Wu was going crazy, but she protected her cake plate with all her might. Then Gu Fengfeng's 5 fingers went straight to her face. "Fifth sister, don't you want to eat? I'll give it to you." "Ha ha ha, you're bullying me." "Sister Chiu, are you going to do something about it?" Xiao Wu looked impatient and asked Zhuang Suqiu, who had always been dignified for help. Zhuang Suqiu looked up slightly. "Huh." She held a big lump of cream with 2 fingers and turned to look at Xiao Wu. She looked a little guilty. "Sister Chiu, even you, what's there to say?" "Beat her up," Su Hong shouted. Everyone went up together. In the chaos, it was unknown who wiped the cream on who and who made a lump of cream on whose neck. When the prison guards came to take Gu Fengfeng away, they saw that the 5th prison was in a mess. Even the bedding and pillows were not spared. The 6 people in front of them were in a terrible state. Zhuang Suqiu's short hair was plastered with cream. It was more effective than styling glue. Gu Fengfeng and Su Hong's necks were full of cream, as if they were wrapped in a circle of cotton. Yi Huanyan and Fu Yingxiang were a pair of sisters in distress. Their hair was stuck together and could not be untied. Their hair was wrapped in circles of cream and breadcrumbs. The most miserable was Xiao Wu. Other than her eyes, her face was full of cream. When the prison guards came, she was still beating her chest and stamping her feet, licking it desperately. Gu Fengfeng would have to leave when the time came. She reluctantly said goodbye. As for the remaining 5, the prison guards' faces were gloomy as they roared angrily. "Everyone, carry your bedding and walk together. The destination is the laundry room." They had to wash the dirty bedding personally. Otherwise, clean ones would not be distributed to them. Chapter 206. It was a good time to enter spring in Lanjiang City. The women's prison was near the river, and it had always been cold in the cells. Now that they had a rare opportunity to come out, it was almost the middle of April, and the temperature had warmed up. It was afternoon, and the sun poured down and landed on the large sunscreen in front of the laundry room, making people's hearts itch. In the fourth prison, 5 people were squatting in a row on the cement floor in front of the laundry room, washing clothes. If it weren't for the eye-catching prison clothes on their bodies, the 5 of them would be chatting casually like rural women who only worried about their 3 meals and 5 grains. Sister Chio, among us, you come from the best family. Can you tell me if a rich man's wife is just like the actors on TV? She has someone to take care of her every day. She has to either apply facial masks or go to the spa every day. She even has a special nanny to take care of her dog. The one who started this topic was Su Hong. She looked at Zhuang Suqiu eagerly, looking forward to it. Zhuang Suqiu rolled up her sleeves, and her fair arms were exposed to the sun. They were stained with soap and reflected the colorful light. She smiled and said, "Most likely, but not all of these." Su Hong glared at her. "Rich people have troubles too? Don't tell me that rich people will be lonely. I don't believe it." Then, second sister, if you have money, how are you going to live? Yi Huanyan put the clothes that had been wrung dry in another basin and asked as she fetched fresh clean water under the pipe. Su Hong was stunned. "Of course, I'll live the kind of life I just mentioned. I won't think about anything else, and I'll live a good life every year. Don't you want to find a man?" Fu Wingxiang teased. This question stumped Su Hong, but the big-hearted Su Hong quickly felt relieved. She waved her hand and said, "What's wrong with that? If I have money, I'll keep whoever I like. In this day and age, there's no need to talk about relationships. Only money is practical. After I'm done playing with men, I can even keep dogs." Yi Huanyan and Fu Wingxiang looked at each other and snickered. Even Xiao Wu was stunned for a moment, and suddenly burst into laughter. "Sister Hong, your taste is too strong. As the saying goes, men don't keep cats and women don't keep dogs." Su Hong's face turned red from their laughter. However, Yi Huanyan and Fu Wingxiang were too far away. She could only reach Xiao Wu with the towel in her hand, so she shouted, "You little hussy, even you are laughing with me. You haven't even grown all your hair yet. Have you tried those that aren't that heavy?" Xiao Wu dodged the water stains and laughed. "Why haven't I tasted it before?" "Second sister, you haven't seen it before, so how do you know that my hair isn't fully grown?" "Little wench, you'll know once I strip you naked." The quarrel became more and more outrageous, and the words of the two became more and more unpleasant to the ear. The remaining 3 people who were watching the show had different expressions on their faces. They all wanted to laugh, but couldn't thicken their faces to laugh. It was very uncomfortable to hold it in. Despite the commotion, the prison guards were still monitoring them from behind. They only verbally attacked each other for a while before calming down very quickly. Zhuang Suqiu, who had been silent for a while, suddenly said, "Xiao Hong, what do you think is the most regrettable thing in your life?" "I don't have money," Su Hong answered without even thinking. Among the 5 people here, except for Su Hong, they all came from good families and had never lacked money. After Su Hong answered, Zhuang Suqiu lowered her head and rubbed the bedsheets in her hands. She said calmly, "I've never lacked money, but ever since I was born, the burden of inheriting the family business was on my shoulders. When I was 5, I went to all kinds of meeting places with the elders of my family. At first, I just had to follow the rules and not cry. Later on, as I grew older, I had to know how to read people's expressions, be sweet and obedient. After I was 10, I had to be smooth and slick in social interactions and draw inferences from one case." Su Hong was stunned for a few seconds. She stared blankly at her eldest sister, who had always been calm and steady. She didn't know what to do. "When I was 6 years old, my biggest regret was that I couldn't be like other children at my birthday party and dirty my clothes. I couldn't show my love for cake, not just cake, but everything that I liked." Yi Huanyan came from a good family, but she wasn't as powerful as the Zhuang family, so she couldn't empathize with her. However, she didn't notice that Fu Wingxiang's expression changed slightly. She rubbed the bedsheets even harder. Su Hong was stunned. "Why are your elders so strict with you?" Actually, they weren't strict. Zhuang Suqiu smiled calmly. They didn't hit me or scold me. They just made me feel that there were many things that I couldn't do. I had to hide my emotions and not let others find out. My mother told me, since I was young, that our emotions are our biggest weakness for others to attack. So, emotional management was the biggest constraint they had on me since I was young. So, they didn't want you to laugh loudly when you were happy, and they didn't want you to cry loudly when you were sad. Zhuang Suqiu was stunned for a moment. It was the first time she had heard such a straightforward explanation. Compared to the mess she had made just now, it was much easier to understand. In the end, she nodded with a bitter expression on her face. Su Hong frowned and took a deep breath. Are they planning to suffocate the child to death? Seeing that the atmosphere suddenly became a little gloomy, Yi Huanyan turned off the water valve, coughed, and joked. Second sister, if you were to grow up like this, would you be willing? Su Hong said casually. Forget it. I'd rather earn my own money. If I'm happy, I'll earn more. If I'm unhappy, I'll close the shop today. I'll live a happy life one day at a time. There's no need to be angry. After saying this, Su Hong glanced at Zhuang Suqiu and said carefully, Sister Qiu, I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying, Sai, anyway, everyone has their own life. You have your own advantages. It's better than me leaving home at the age of 12 to make a living alone. Seeing that she was comforting her in such a serious manner, Zhuang Suqiu laughed and glanced at her. Do I need you to comfort me? I'm living a life without anyone to care about me now, right? I've lived for more than 30 years, and I've encountered something like going to prison. I reckon that the coffin of my ancestors can't be closed anymore. I'm considered to have done whatever I want for once. Everyone was amused. Zhuang Suqiu had always been mature and steady. Her tone of speaking was most likely influenced by Su Hong and Xiaowu. If the saying one is marked by the company one keeps, one will be marked by the company one keeps was combined together. Even cinnabar would be covered in dust when it met black ink. Xiaowu twisted her clothes and raised her head to ask, Sister Qiu, what do you want to do after you get out? What about the mistress? Yi Huanyan was squatting beside Zhuang Suqiu. She could clearly see that her eyes trembled slightly and there was a faint trace of hostility in them when Xiaowu mentioned the mistress. I'm your big sister. I can't embarrass you all, right? Big sister, if there's anything, just call me. My brother has enough manpower. As long as you give the order, I guarantee that he'll tear the mistress apart on the street. Tear her apart alive? Everyone's mouth twitched slightly. After all, she came from a martial arts school. She was violent. Chapter 207. Little 5. Didn't you have a falling out with your family? Why is your brother still willing to help you? Su Hong asked. Little 5 raised her eyebrows and said proudly, Who said Chun-Li? I'm talking about my big brother in the underworld. My skills were taught to me by my brother. Everyone looked at each other. Zhuang Suqiu coughed and said, Little 5, stealing is not a legitimate profession. After you get out of prison, you should find something else to do. Little 5 frowned at the mention of this. Sister Qiu, are you looking down on me? In the underworld, friendship and face were the most important things. At Little 5's age, she was hot-blooded. It's not that I'm looking down on you. How about this? After you get out of prison, I'll introduce you to a new job in my company. You can be a receptionist or a clerk. The salary is stable and high. A clerk in the Zhuang Yu group had to be a first-rate graduate to be able to enter. Little 5 was unhappy. Although she did not say anything, her expression was already very ugly. She was probably still upset that Zhuang Suqiu looked down on her pickpocketing job. Earn a living with your skills. Those who are not as good as others have to pay. That's not third-rate. This voice was clear and calm. It was Fu Yingxiang, who rarely participated in discussions. Everyone was stunned. They all thought that she was an otherworldly person and would scoff at this kind of thing. However, when she spoke, it reminded them that she was also caught for stealing. Thus, they understood her words. Fu Yingxiang was not only trying to absolve herself. She smiled faintly, but she was persistent. For example, stealing, winning the lottery, gambling, and cheating. These so-called shortcuts to get rich overnight are actually all based on one's own skills. People spend 10 years at home to sharpen their skills. Most of them live a dark life because of this to support their families. Earning a little money is understandable, isn't it? Hearing this, even Yi Huanyan raised her head and stared at her, unable to move her eyes away. It was the first time she heard someone speak so confidently about these opportunistic and even illegal activities. Moreover, this person was such an elegant and refined woman. Fu Yingxiang seemed to have realized that everyone was looking at her strangely. She smiled awkwardly and said, "I was just saying it casually. Don't take my personal opinion seriously." Among the crowd, only Zhuang Suqiu looked at her with a hint of understanding. On the surface, he said that he wouldn't investigate her background, but she had to know what kind of dangerous person was living next to her, right? The five of them kept changing the topic. Xiao Wu and Su Hong, who loved to chat, took the lead. When they were almost done, the topic finally landed on Yi Huanyan. She was the last to arrive. What everyone knew about her was what she said a few days ago. There wasn't much to talk about. After all, it was a sad thing for her. Moreover, this sad thing was right in front of them. It had only been less than half a month. It was just that the topic had changed, and it didn't seem good to ignore her. In the end, it was Su Hong who asked cautiously, "Sister Yan Yan, what do you plan to do after you go out? Are you going back to that scumbag?" Yi Huanyan was silent for a few seconds. "I haven't thought about it yet." Since she was in prison, she had been thinking about the grievances between her and Ling Han, plus the entanglement between Shang Anren and the other two. At the beginning of her one-year sentence, she hadn't thought about what would happen after she got out of prison. Xiao Wu jumped a little, poured the dirty water with cream foam in a basin, and spat, "Don't go back to that scumbag even if you die. Let him and that stinking shameless Shang Anren go there. Sister, wait for me to get out of prison and help you clean them up." Su Hong gave her a white look. "Little brat, what do you know?" Zhuang Suqiu naturally understood Yi Huanyan's confusion and helplessness at the moment. She wiped her hands and patted her on the shoulder with dry hands. "You've been in this place long enough. What can't you understand? You'll always get over it." Yi Huanyan looked at her in a daze. "Sister, have you gotten over it?" "I've gotten over it, and I still have enough time to think about how to get all the things that originally belonged to me back little by little after I get out of prison. Do you still want to go back to him?" "It's not that I want to go back, but he wants me to go back." Zhuang Suqiu's eyes were somewhat unfathomable. "Yan Yan, you have to believe that men prefer weak women. I came to prison for him. His guilt for me is enough to make me an irreplaceable existence for a long time. And so are you." When Zhuang Suqiu got up to dry the sheets, Yi Huanyan squatted on the ground and looked at her back in a trance. Using the psychology of guilt? But what if she didn't want to? From the beginning to the end, all she wanted was his heart. At the side, Xiao Wu lowered his head and pondered whether it was noble or not to rely on one's ability to make a living. Fu Yingxiang, on the other hand, stared at Yi Huanyan with a thoughtful look. Only Su Hong stared at the two of them. She glanced left and right and was speechless. It was as if she was watching a drama about the grudges between the rich and powerful. After watching the drama, she carried a basin of dirty sheets and ran to look for Zhuang Suqiu. She probably wanted to continue to discuss the problem of how many bedrooms there were in the rich's house. After a while, Xiao Wu carried the basin and went to dry the sheets. Only Yi Huanyan was left standing there in a trance. "Yan Yan, don't be sad. Time will let you think about everything clearly. Even if you can't, you might not be willing to think about it in the end." Fu Yingxiang's voice was very clear, as if a mountain spring flowed through one's heart, making one feel comfortable and pleasant. Her words and actions were always like this. She knew when to advance and when to retreat. Even when she was talking to you, she would maintain the right distance. She would not be too intimate and make people vigilant, but she would not be too cold and make people disappointed. Yi Huanyan nodded. She had heard her good intentions. But how could the pent-up resentment in her heart be dispelled with just a few words? In fact, Fu Xiang had already washed the bedsheets and blankets in the basin. She wrung them dry and placed them in the plastic basin. Her hands were clasped together as she squatted on the ground and looked at Yi Huanyan. Even though Yi Huanyan's mind wasn't here, she could tell that Fu Xiang was in a trance. Xiang, what's wrong with you? Originally it was just a guess, but after asking, she saw Fu Xiang frown. Yi Huanyan knew that she guessed correctly. What's troubling you? It's nothing. It's just that third sister left today, and I forgot to ask her about something. I only remembered it now, and felt a little vexed. Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. What's the matter? I want to tell my brother that I'm safe. He still doesn't know that I'm in prison, and I don't know if anyone is looking for me. Yi Huanyan was stunned. Shouldn't the prison send someone to contact your family? When I was young, my parents divorced early. My father took my brother with him and left. After my mother passed away, it was my brother who helped me in private. 3 years ago, my brother got married and moved out of the house. These past few years, it hasn't been easy for him. He only comes to visit me during the holidays. He doesn't usually contact me. Fu Xiang's eyes could not hide the grief in her eyes. Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. She thought that if she still had relatives alive, they would be in as much pain as her. So she held her hand. It's okay. Whoever gets out first will help you pass the message. Chapter 208. After Yi Huanyan said this, Fu Xiang's expression improved a lot, and the depression between her eyebrows faded. Yen, among the few of us, you should be the first to go out. Hearing this, Yi Huanyan was stunned. You forgot about Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu only has half a year left before she can go out. After she said this, she saw that Fu Xiang still had a look of certainty on her face. Then, if I go out early, I'll pass you a message. Where does your brother live? What's his name? After you get out of prison, just call my brother. Before I leave, I'll write you a phone number. My brother's name is Gulu. Yi Huanyan nodded, even though she did not think that she would go out early. Seeing that Fu Xiang was so upset, she naturally spoke to her and gave her some hope. That night, Fu Xiang stuffed a piece of paper into Yi Huanyan's hand. It was folded very small, and she kept it close to her. As for why Fu Xiang did not mention this in front of the other sisters, Yi Huanyan also thought about it. Perhaps she felt that it was not worth mentioning. After all, Fu Xiang did not look like someone who liked to trouble others to do things for her. Yi Huanyan guessed that she had been anxious for a long time before she mentioned it to her. Not long after Gu Fengfeng left, the 5 people in the prison were sent to do some simple manual labor by the prison guards. Their main task was to help the factory that made the cardboard boxes as laborers. The cardboard boxes were not heavy, but they were big. The medium cardboard boxes could only be moved 2 or 3 at a time, and the large cardboard boxes could only be moved 1 or 2. They did not stop running back and forth. In addition, the prison guards kept urging them. So the 5 of them were so tired that their legs trembled when they returned to the prison after dinner every day. When will these days end? Su Hong sighed and patted her stomach. It's okay to move things, but my waist is not good. I have to bend over and get up. It's killing me. Xiao Wu had just finished washing her hair. She laughed as she dried her hair. Sister Chiu lives like a princess, but she doesn't complain like you. Are you a servant with the body of a young lady? Hearing this, Su Hong glared at her. Can't you hope for me to be better? I'm a young lady. Can't I have the body and life of a young lady? Xiao Wu put the towel on her head and spread her hands. Just here? If all 4 of us are your servant girls, we won't be able to live like young ladies, right? Su Hong suddenly laughed out loud. I've been a young lady for so many years, but now I'm liberated. Fu Xiang laughed when she saw the 2 of them start to fool around again. She saw Yi Huanyan come out of the bathroom with a basin of water and seemed to want to sit by the bed to soak her feet. Fu Xiang quickly went up to her. Your arms is okay, your arm is. Yi Huanyan tried to decline but was glared at by Su Qingsang. Su Qingsang pulled Yi Huanyan to sit by the bed. The two of them got along well. But when Zhuang Suqiu saw this, she couldn't help but look at Fu Yingxiang a few more times, a hint of warning in her eyes. Fu Yingxiang's gaze shifted 2 inches away. She deliberately pretended not to see the look in Yan Yan's eyes. She squatted down and tested the temperature of the water in the basin. Yan Yan, the temperature of the water is a bit low. I'll go get some hot water for you to wash. Seeing this, Zhuang Suqiu got up. Let me do it. Yan Yan got injured because of me. Fourth sister, you don't have to trouble yourself with such a small matter. I'll do it. Fu Yingxiang knew that she couldn't avoid it, so she didn't insist. She smiled. Then I'll have to trouble Sister Qiu. Yi Huanyan was a little embarrassed by the two of them. She got off the bed. Sister Qiu, don't bother. I'll do it myself. My arm is fine. Besides, I still have one arm that's not injured. Naturally, the two of them followed her to the bathroom, where the hot water bottles were placed. Yi Huanyan was the first to come out with the hot water bottles. She muttered as she walked, I'm not disabled yet. Why are you following me so closely? If the prison guards see this, what will they do? She didn't notice that when the two of them looked at each other, neither of them was giving in. The two of them stood in front of the bathroom door and put some distance between them and Yi Huanyan. With Su Hong and Little Five's noisy background, the two of them didn't attract much attention when they talked. Zhuang Suqiu was half a head taller than Fu Yingxiang. When she spoke, she lowered her voice and narrowed her eyes with a hint of warning. I've already figured out your identity. Indeed, you didn't lie. But I need to know what you want Yan Yan to do. Fu Yingxiang was stunned. She didn't expect Zhuang Suqiu's news to come so quickly. They were both in prison, and no one had come to visit her recently. When did she find out? Before or after she confessed? I only asked her to help me contact someone. What happened after she contacted him? Let her know that she's safe. Did the two women from before do the same thing? Yes. Is this matter that dangerous? I'm not sure. You know that my situation is worse than yours. I've already lost contact with the outside world. I don't think the two of them succeeded in bringing the news I told them. Why do you think Yan Yan can do it? Other than her, I have no other choice. I need to inform my friends about my current situation as soon as possible. Zhuang Suqiu knew that Fu Yingxiang wasn't lying. After she explained the situation, she calmed down a lot. She only asked Yi Huanyan to send a message. Not to mention that this girl definitely had someone to protect her outside. Even if there wasn't, she could just pick a few people to follow her. Nothing serious would happen. Chapter 209. When she woke up, she was still in the familiar infirmary. The difference was that this time, there was no doctor walking up to her. Instead, she heard the stiff sound of someone talking outside the door and vaguely heard someone mention her number. Not long after, a female doctor pushed open the door and entered, looking at her with pity. You can leave now. Yi Huanyan was stunned and looked down at her arm. It was already bandaged, but she still felt a dense pain like needles stabbing her arm from time to time. It's just a few blisters, but it's okay. The child is fine. Child? Yi Huanyan was stunned. Before the female doctor could answer, a man in casual clothes knocked on the door. Dr. Zhao, can I take her away now? The female doctor nodded. Yes. Yi Huanyan was still confused. Was it her imagination? She clearly heard the doctor say something about a child. You said a child? She asked. Yes, you're already pregnant. You're 3 months pregnant. Someone is taking you out now, and your sentence has been suspended. Yi Huanyan felt like her brain had exploded, leaving only a roaring sound that buzzed in her ears. So much so that she didn't hear a single word the female doctor said when she approached her. She also didn't have any recollection of who the man in civilian clothes was, or how he walked out of the 4-meter-tall iron gate of a Lanjiang City women's prison. The prison's entrance was the backward broken crossroad, and a black Rolls-Royce was parked close to the road. Her expression froze. She vaguely remembered that there was a car similar to this one in that person's garage, but because he had too many cars, and Xiao Mu was usually the one driving the commercial car as the driver, she did not remember clearly. Was it him? Miss Yi, please. The one who spoke was the man in black who took her out. He looked refined, but he was also ordinary. He was the kind of person who would not be easily recognized in a crowd. She was stunned, and for some reason, she subconsciously rubbed her lower abdomen. Then, she mustered up her courage and walked toward the car. But it was not Ling Han in the car. The man had a head of silver-white hair, and the cross on his left ear shone coldly under the sunlight. She subconsciously took a step back and stood vigilantly in front of the car door, staring at him. Who are you? I saved you, yet you don't say a word of thanks. Isn't such an attitude impolite? The silver-haired man's expression was cold. He glanced at her with a bit of scrutiny in his eyes. He sized her up from head to toe and did not hide his naked gaze. Yi Huanyan felt uncomfortable being stared at by him and frowned. I didn't ask you to save me. And how do you know that by bringing me out of here, you're saving me, not harming me? Get in the car. There was a complicated look in the man's eyes, and his gaze softened. If you follow me, you will know that anyone in this world can harm you, except me. What a joke, I don't even know you. Yi Huanyan's face darkened. After saying this, she turned around and walked towards a wide and empty road in the suburbs. If she wanted to leave, she would leave by herself. Even if the person who came to pick her up was not Ling Han, for the sake of the child in her stomach, she wanted to give herself and him a chance. She had to find Ling Han. What's your relationship with Jiang Milan? A deep voice came from behind her, causing her nerves to tighten. Even her footsteps slowed down and finally stopped completely. You know my mother? She turned around and sized up the silver-haired man. Although she knew in her heart that her unreliable mother had a lot of lovers before she married into the Ling family, the man in front of her had a head of white hair. From his face, he looked less than 35 years old. It couldn't be that kind of relationship, right? She's your mother? Are you sure? The silver-haired man's eyes were filled with ridicule, but his words made Yi Huanyan really angry. How can I not know my own mother? What's wrong with you? You said that Jiang Milan is your mother. Then what about your father? Yi Huanyan was so angry that she was trembling. This man who appeared out of nowhere to save her seemed to be looking at her from a god's perspective. It was as if she was small and laughable in his eyes, and could be played around with at any time. My mother is Jiang Milan. My father is Yi Tingfeng. Do you want me to find them and confront them face to face? They are all in the cemetery in the southern suburbs. How about I take you there to see them? She glared at the silver-haired man angrily, and her expression was very ugly. She had a child in her stomach, and she was suddenly released. After coming out, she had to face a man who suddenly appeared in front of her and asked her some confusing questions. Her chest was now full of anger. The silver-haired man's expression did not change at all. He was still staring at Yi Huanyan. His silver hair fluttered in the wind, and the cross shone with a cold light under the sun. You are 26 years old today. Jiang Milan and Yi Tingfeng got married 20 years ago. Before that, Jiang Milan and you depended on each other. Your name is Jiang Huanyan. Yi Huanyan's expression froze. What did you say? 26 years ago, Jiang Milan was a nurse in a small hospital in Lushui County. At that time, Yi Tingfeng was still studying abroad, and the two of them did not have any chance to meet. The silver-haired man spoke slowly, and every word fell clearly into Yi Huanyan's ears. To be honest, Yi Huanyan did not have a deep impression of her father. When she was 10 years old, Yi Tingfeng passed away from cancer. He did not have time to undergo any chemotherapy or surgery. He passed away very peacefully and quickly. One of the few memories she had was that when they were young, Yi Tingfeng would always agree to her requests. In her memory, Yi Tingfeng had never rejected any of her requests. When she could not wake up in the morning and did not want to go to school, he would carry her to the amusement park and play the whole day. On Saturdays and Sundays, they would definitely go out for picnics or fly kites further away. In summer, they would go to the swimming pool. It was said that childhood memories were not easy to be engraved in one's heart, and that was indeed the case. However, such memories would appear one by one when one thought of a certain person. Perhaps it was not very clear, but those colors were the most complete feelings at that time. The silver-haired man's lips curled into a meaningful smile. He stared at her like this, as if he could see another person through her. "Who exactly are you?" she asked. "Are you sure you want to talk here?" The silver-haired man glanced at the car door. Yi Huanyan frowned and hesitated for a moment. In the end, she steeled her heart and got into the car. This man had broken the one thing that she had been sure of for the past 20 years, and she suddenly realized that everything was as he had said. There was a scene in her memory where Jiang Milan carried her luggage and officially moved into the Yi family's big house. She had always thought that it was just a family moving. Chapter 210. Pleasure Group, President's Office. Xiao Mu rushed out of the elevator and rushed to the president's office, ignoring the surprised gazes of the assistant team. Xiao Dong poked his head out of the secretary's office. "Assistant Xiao, are you looking for President Ling? He's having a meeting on the 10th floor and not in the office. It'll probably take a while." Xiao Mu was about to push the door open when he heard this, but he paused. "How long?" "I'm not sure. You know that President Ling doesn't have a fixed number of meetings. If he suddenly sees a key problem, it's possible that the meeting will last until the night." Xiao Dong was about to send a stack of documents to the meeting room. "Is there something urgent?" Xiao Mu frowned. Was it something urgent? Even if it was something urgent, it was hard to say. After all, it was a private matter. Seeing his hesitation, Xiao Dong asked hesitantly, "Private matter?" Xiao Mu nodded. Xiao Dong was taken aback and lowered his voice. "Secretary Ye's matter?" Xiao Mu's expression changed slightly, as if he did not want to discuss this topic with Xiao Dong. "Forget it. I'll wait for President Ling in the office." Xiao Dong confirmed from his abnormal expression that this matter was indeed related to Yi Huanyan, and his expression changed immediately. "Assistant Xiao, what's the urgent matter? Tell me quickly. Did something happen to Sister Yi?" "Nothing happened." Xiao Mu's expression was no longer strange. When he first received the news, the nervousness in his heart had more or less disappeared. Xiao Dong's question did not bring him too much confusion. He turned around and walked into the president's office, directly shutting Xiao Dong outside. He needed time to digest the complicated emotions in his heart just now. It was a call from Sheng Anren, and there were already 2 missed calls. During this time, Ling Han had been asking him to mediate Yi Huanyan's matter, and he spent the rest of his time listening to Sheng Anren's complaints. After Yi Huanyan was imprisoned, Ling Han refused to meet with Sheng Anren. Smart people knew that this was just a roundabout way of breaking up. Sheng Anren would not fail to understand, but she just could not let go. Xiao Mu could tell. The sound of a message notification interrupted Xiao Mu's thoughts. He looked down at the phone in his hand and pressed the button to check the message. Sheng Anren's words popped up. "Xiao Mu, help me ask Wen Han if we can have dinner together tonight. I've reserved a restaurant, and it's his favorite French cuisine." Xiao Mu creased her brows and swiftly typed a line of words on the keyboard. "He won't go at all. Stop thinking about him." Then, he hesitated for a few seconds on the send button. However, in those few seconds, the message was not sent out. Instead, he deleted it word by word. A few seconds later, Sheng Anren received a text message that made her so happy that she couldn't help herself, sweeping away the haze of these days. He agreed, but he's going to a meeting now. "I'll tell you after the meeting. Don't contact him without permission. I'll arrange it for you." Several messages of gratitude in a row made Xiao Mu's face turn cold. He could almost imagine how happy the woman on the other end of the phone was. She opened the wardrobe and picked out the clothes to wear tonight, the jewelry to wear, and even the perfume to match the atmosphere tonight. He held the sofa and slowly sat down with a gloomy expression. This world was really unfair to him. He didn't want much, but it was always abandoned by others like a worn-out shoe. Ling Han's meeting did not last long because Xiaodong was delayed by the documents. Ling Han asked with a cold face, "Why did it take so long?" After Yi Huanyan was imprisoned, his temper had always been like this. He would not tolerate the slightest thing that he was not used to. He was as elite as the president's assistant team, and half of them had already resigned and left under the pressure. Xiaodong's hand that was putting down the documents froze slightly, and she whispered. Assistant Xiao came back and said that there was something urgent, so I asked. Ling Han's hand that was about to flip open the documents also paused. What's the matter? He didn't say. It shouldn't be anything urgent. After saying this, Xiaodong avoided a scolding, and the people in the meeting also avoided the pain of facing Ling Han's icy face for a day. In less than half an hour, the meeting ended abruptly. Ling Han's figure had already disappeared from the door of the meeting room, leaving the room full of people looking at each other in bewilderment. Xiao Mu didn't have much to do recently, except for the business that the two of them were discussing, and Yi Huanyan's matter. Even though Xiaodong said that it might not be a big deal, Ling Han was always absent-minded during the meeting. His mind was filled with the prison photos that Xiao Mu showed him that day. She was injured, had one arm in a sling, and looked half dead. She had also lost a lot of weight. Thinking of this, even if there were more questions in the meeting, he could not listen anymore and left in a hurry. President Ling, is the meeting over? Seeing that Ling Han came back in less than 15 minutes, Xiao Mu was more or less surprised. Ling Han did not waste time with him and asked directly, "What's the matter? Is there any obstruction from the prosecutor's office?" "No, they are very cooperative. According to your instructions, they plan to release her at the end of this month." In the end, Ling Han could not bear to let her stay in that place for too long. He frowned, and his expression was somewhat twisted. "Then, how's her injury?" "She's more or less recovered. I heard that the braces have been removed. She even washed her own clothes 2 days ago. There's no problem." Ling Han's hanging heart finally settled down. He pulled out a chair and slowly sat down. He even casually flipped open a contract and spun the pen twice. He seemed to realize that he was too nervous. This was indeed not a big deal. However, Xiao Mu's next sentence ruthlessly stabbed a knife into his heart. He was not prepared for it at all. Dr. Zhao from the infirmary of the women's prison sent a message saying that she's pregnant. The 4 words "she's pregnant" made Ling Han suddenly grip the pen. His face darkened with a bit of shock. "What did you say?" Dr. Zhao said that she's already 3 months pregnant. 3 months pregnant? Pa. A crisp sound was heard. Xiao Mu stared blankly as the signature pen in the owner's hand broke in the middle. Black ink flowed down the owner's fingers and onto the clean paper of the contract, forming a large patch of ink. Ling Han's gaze at this moment was extremely terrifying. 3 months ago, during the Pleasure Annual Gala, he never lacked safety measures when he slept with Yi Huanyan, even if there was a 0.1% oversight in the safety measures. He did not believe that such an oversight would happen to him. And on the night of the annual gala 3 months ago, he was the one who personally saw Yi Huanyan and Sun Yanhua spend the night together in a hotel. What could a single man and woman do under the influence of alcohol? As a man, he did not think that Sun Yanhua was very gentlemanly. Moreover, Yi Huanyan's heart had been with him since 10 years ago. It was hard to say that she did not forget their old feelings. "Yi Huanyan, you're really bold." His malicious eyes were suffused with a cold light. He gritted his teeth and asked, "Where is she? Bring her back immediately." Chapter 211. The prison guard said that Secretary Yi was taken away after it was discovered that she was pregnant. Xiao Mu lowered his head, a trace of surprise in his eyes. He did not expect Ling Han to have such a big reaction after learning that Yi Huanyan was pregnant. There was only one reason why a man would be shocked and furious when he heard that his woman was pregnant. This reason made Xiao Mu's eyes flash with suspicion and even a trace of disappointment. Who took her away? Ling Han's face darkened. A name quickly flashed through his mind. It's not clear yet. The person who took Secretary Yi away has a very deep background. Dr. Zhao only saw an assistant with the surname Gu. There was a moment of dead silence in the office. Investigate Yi Huanyan's current location. The cold voice covered the entire room with a layer of chill that seemed to be able to seep into people's bones. Even Xiao Mu could not help but shudder. According to Ling Han's instructions, Xiao Mu used the technical department to secretly investigate from two directions. One was to investigate Sun Yanhua's whereabouts, and the other was to investigate the movements of the women's prison throughout the afternoon. In the end, it was confirmed that Yi Huanyan took a black Rolls-Royce to Lanjiang City's neighboring city, Lu City, after leaving the women's prison. Director Ling, we've investigated. It's a black Rolls-Royce with an unknown owner. The name of the owner is a nobody, which is probably the name of the driver. There are about 3 people in the car heading toward Lu City and have now arrived at Lanjiang City's highway entrance. After learning the exact location, Ling Han picked up his jacket and followed Xiao Mu into the car without another word. He mobilized the entire fleet of pleasure cars and prepared to surround that mysterious Rolls-Royce on the highway. 15 luxury cars of various models sped up on the highway. The leading car had already exceeded the speed limit several times and finally caught up with the black Rolls-Royce. The Rolls-Royce's mirror reflected the shadows of a long line of luxury cars behind it. The driver's face darkened slightly, and a trace of vigilance appeared on his face. "Young master, someone is chasing us from behind." The silver-haired man's gaze landed on the rear-view mirror, and his lips curled into a cold smile. "Quite a large number of people. Young master, should we inform Achi? There's no rush. Let's play with them first." After saying this, the man held the woman's hand tightly and said gently, "Sit tight." As soon as he finished speaking, the car suddenly accelerated. The 3 people in the car sank into the leather seats at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, they were more than 100 meters away from the dozens of cars. Ling Han's face was extremely dark. "Inform the fleet behind to block them. I don't care if there are casualties. I will bear all the consequences. If you don't dare to go, hand in your resignation letter tomorrow." Pleasure's motorcade was organized by the security team, and every one of them was well trained. After Ling Han gave the order, more than a dozen cars behind quickly overtook them, and the tires were almost separated from the ground. The overtaking motorcade practically brushed past Ling Han's car. Xiao Mu tightly knitted her brows and gripped the steering wheel, barely managing to say, "Director Ling, safety is more important. Speed up." Ling Han only spat out 2 words, but the carriage was filled with a chill. It's a bit interesting. The silver-haired man had been staring at the rearview mirror. When he saw the group of people desperately chasing after them, his eyes were filled with competitiveness. He was about to tell his assistant to speed up when his palm suddenly turned cold. He frowned and looked over. Yi Huanyan was clenching her teeth, and her face was pale. "Slow down. Stop." He gave the order without hesitation. Not long after, the black Rolls-Royce stopped on the highway. Under the night sky, the street lights shone on the roof of the car. More than a dozen cars followed closely behind and surrounded them. Now, they couldn't leave even if they wanted to. The silver-haired man's expression was as usual. He held Yi Huanyan's hand and asked in a low voice, "Do you still want to go back to him?" Yi Huanyan clenched her teeth and didn't speak. She looked very weak. The moment the car stopped, she broke out in a cold sweat. Before the silver-haired man could reply, she fainted in his arms. Holding this cold and soft body, a trace of regret flashed in the silver-haired man's eyes. He forgot that Yi Huanyan's body wasn't very good. As for her psychological endurance, she couldn't compare to people like them. But before Yi Huanyan fainted, he saw the subtle movement of her nodding at him. Did she still want to go back? He frowned. Ling Han's car was the last to arrive. After getting out of the car, He walked toward the center of the motorcade with a cold face. He saw a silver-haired man walking toward him with Yi Huanyan in his arms. Gu Xinian? Ling Han's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. Take good care of her. She's pregnant and can't take too much suffering. What's your relationship with her? Why are you saying this to me? Ling Han's face darkened, but his hands didn't stop. He took Yi Huanyan from him and held her in his arms. She was very light, much lighter than before. This has nothing to do with you. It's between me and her. Gu Xinian, I respect you in business, but it's best if you don't touch my things, especially my woman. This is China. Are you threatening me? The silver-haired man's eyes moved. The bangs in front of his forehead rose with the wind, revealing his delicate and deep facial features, especially his cold eyes. At this moment, he was examining Ling Han. His tone was very disdainful. I stopped here today not because I'm afraid of you. I'm returning her to you because I see that you've put in a lot of effort to find her. Do you really think that this is China, so it's not within the scope of my Gu family's power? As soon as he finished speaking, a rumbling sound came from the distance. Dozens of black BMWs of the same model flew over, and around those cars, there were no less than 50 motorcycles shuttling back and forth in the black traffic, each of them weighing a cold steel pipe in their hands. In an instant, they surrounded Ling Han's people and cars. They occupied a few hundred meters of the road. President Ling, I don't plan to go against you, even though I don't have a good impression of you. After saying this, Gu Xinian turned around and left. No one dared to stop him. Ling Han's eyes burned with the flames of anger. In the fading exhaust fumes, there was a fierce and cold light. The person in his arms was pale and showed no signs of waking up. What was her relationship with Gu Xinian? Who exactly was Gu Xinian targeting with his actions? After throwing her into the car, Ling Han directly walked past Xiao Mu and drove away with Yi Huanyan. He only left behind a sentence floating in the cold wind. Tomorrow morning, I want all of Gu Xinian's information. Xiao Mu stood on the highway. The phone in his pocket kept vibrating. Ling Han's order just now was still echoing in his ears. However, when he saw the caller ID, a smile inexplicably appeared on his lips. Sorry, I couldn't answer the phone just now. President Ling can't go. Yi Huanyan is pregnant. Okay, I'll go find you. After hanging up, his smile contained a bit of self-mockery. In this world, he was not the only one who could not see through. There was no harm in adding him. Chapter 212. The black car sped through a stretch of neon lights and exited the highway from Lu City. Then, it slowed down on the deserted National Highway and returned to Lan River. Yi Huanyan woke up with a jolt. She held onto the seat and sat up straight with difficulty. A trace of surprise flashed across her eyes as she looked at the back of the driver's seat. She was completely unaware of the thrilling scene just now, but she knew that Gu Xinian would definitely allow her to return to Ling Han's side according to her wishes. The rearview mirror reflected Yi Huanyan's movement of getting up. Ling Han's eyes flashed with a trace of relief that he didn't even notice. But in the next second, the frost between his brows shrouded the entire car. As he stepped on the accelerator, sand and pebbles flew everywhere on the uneven road. There were several times when the wheels of the car left the ground and spun rapidly above the road. Along with the gravel under the car, sparks were wantonly bursting out. Yi Huanyan gritted her teeth and resisted the discomfort in her body. She held the door handle with one hand and subconsciously pressed her lower abdomen with the other. When this action landed in Ling Han's eyes, it made the cold light in his eyes become even colder. The speed of the car had exceeded Yi Huanyan's limits. In the violent jolt, she finally let out a cry of surprise. Her hoarse voice sounded inexplicably mournful in the car. Han, I'm not feeling well. Drive slower. The coldness in Ling Han's eyes had condensed to an extreme point. When he thought of the child in her belly of unknown origin and Gu Xinian's intimate and familiar appearance when he mentioned her, There seemed to be a ball of fire in his heart that couldn't be quenched. The car sped along the bumpy road for a long time. Finally, it couldn't bear the pressure. With two rumbles, it slowly stopped by the side of a road that was overgrown with weeds. Then the engine was turned off. Ling Han frowned and restarted the car twice. Finally, he saw the direction of the gas indicator and slammed his fist hard on the steering wheel. The car shook violently, let out a final whimper, and then completely paralyzed. Yi Huanyan held onto the door handle and retracted her hand into the back seat. She cautiously looked at Ling Han and hesitated for a long time before opening her mouth to suggest this. Give Xiao Mu a call. This place doesn't seem to be far from Lan River. Her tone was no longer as nervous as before she was imprisoned. Even after experiencing Ling Han's out-of-control racing, she didn't panic too much. She covered her lower abdomen with her hands, and there was a hint of happiness in her eyes. This was their child. As long as he knew of the existence of this child, they could definitely start afresh. He used to be such a gentle person. However, Ling Han didn't think so. He turned around coldly. Who are you to tell me what to do? Yi Huanyan felt a lump in her throat. She pursed her lips and remained silent. As if looking for self-consolation, she looked at her lower abdomen, and the grievance in her eyes lessened a little. After the crisp sound of the door closing, Ling Han's voice rang out from outside the car. Naturally, he was asking Xiao Mu to find someone to pick him up. However, it seemed that the voice outside the window abruptly stopped after a few words were said. Yi Huanyan looked up and saw Ling Han standing in the cold wind with his phone in his hand. He looked down at it and then viciously smashed the phone on the ground. Because his back was facing her, she couldn't see his expression, but she could feel that he was very irritated at the moment. It was just the beginning of spring, so the night wind was strong. Just from the moment Ling Han opened the door, Yi Huanyan already felt the chill creeping into her neck. Looking at the thin figure wearing only a shirt outside the window, she didn't hesitate to take his jacket and get out of the car. Hearing the sound of the door opening, Ling Han reflexively turned around. There was a thin and long cigarette between his right index and middle fingers. White smoke drifted in the cold wind, covering up the chill on his face. Why did you come out? His tone was cold as he stared at Yi Huanyan with furrowed brows. He was very impatient. Yi Huanyan's footsteps paused slightly. She passed the coat to him and whispered, "It's cold outside. Put on the jacket." His cold gaze paused on her face for a moment before he suddenly sneered. "I've seen many two-faced women, but this is the first time I've seen someone as dedicated as you and put on a full act." Yi Huanyan was stunned. Her arm that was holding up the black woolen jacket gradually became sore, but she stubbornly refused to put it down. "I didn't." She pursed her lips, her voice drifting in the wind. Ling Han looked at her and sneered. "You didn't? You went to prison partly because of me. You and I both know this in our hearts. Now that you've escaped death with great difficulty, you don't hate me, but instead express goodwill to me? What exactly do you want from me?" His gaze intentionally landed on Yi Huanyan's stomach. Yi Huanyan raised her eyes to look into his eyes. In the end, she put down her arms that could no longer bear the burden. However, she took 2 steps closer to him. Then, she lowered her gaze and looked at his chest. A rare blush appeared on her pale face. Her voice was very gentle, overflowing with the taste of happiness in the watery night. Although it was a little hoarse, he could still vaguely recall the sweet memories of the past. "Han, I'm pregnant." She couldn't see Ling Han's expression. She only felt that he should be surprised at this time. Even if there were many misunderstandings between them, she still believed that there was love between them. As long as there was love, then he would definitely like this child. The cold wind swept past, blowing the elegant long hair behind her ears. The hair brushed against her eyes. It was a little itchy, but she endured it and didn't move. She didn't want to miss any reaction from Ling Han at this moment. In the night wind, she finally heard his voice. It was even colder than the evening wind in April. "So," she raised her head in surprise. This was far from what she had expected. The moment she raised her eyes, she finally found that handsome face didn't have any expression she expected. There was only indifference and a trace of anger that was gradually spreading. "Yi Huanyan, do you think I'm a fool?" He suddenly sneered, and his sarcastic gaze cut her inch by inch. "Don't tell me you want to tell me that this child is mine." Yi Huanyan widened her eyes, and her lips trembled slightly. She looked up at his face in disbelief, trying to find a trace of a joke on his face, but there was none. There was only indifference. Why do you say that? This is our child?" Hearing this, Ling Han's eyes fiercely trembled. Every word exuded a bone-chilling coldness. "I'll give you one last chance. Go back to Lan River tomorrow and abort this child. I'll let bygones be bygones." After saying this, he threw away the cigarette but in his hand, letting it flicker between the cracks of the sand. He stepped on it and crushed it. Then, without looking back, he walked toward the car door. Yi Huanyan's eyes were filled with a deathly stillness. Looking at that resolute back, she felt like something had been uprooted in her heart. In the boundless desert, she had finally lost her last oasis. "Get in." He opened the car door and looked at her with a cold expression. Yi Huanyan took 2 steps back. She regretted it. She shouldn't have come back. "I'm not going with you. Whether you acknowledge it or not, I want to keep this child." Chapter 213. Yi Huanyan's face was pale. She was still wearing the clothes she had worn when she first appeared in court. She was thinner than before, and it looked like her entire body was swaying under the clothes. She looked very thin. She looked at Ling Han with disappointment in her eyes, but it wasn't as much as when she was hurt by him in the past. Even if she heard him ask her to have an abortion, she could still recognize reality as quickly as possible. Ling Han's calm face finally reignited with anger. He strode in front of her and grabbed her wrist fiercely. His tone was unquestionable. "Get in the car." He didn't care about Yi Huanyan's attitude and dragged her away without any explanation. A long drag mark on the gravel road extended to the car door, accompanied by a woman's screams and struggles. Yi Huanyan's toes were firmly pressed against the ground, and her other hand was holding onto the roof of the car. As she struggled, she used her back to close the car door fiercely, finally temporarily blocking Ling Han's violent drag. Her eyes were red as she said mournfully, "You hate me so much that you don't want our child. I won't go with you. Let go of me." "You won't go with me?" Ling Han's face darkened, and he loosened his grip slightly. "Then, who do you plan to go with? Sun Yanhua or Gu Xinian?" His eyes were burning with fire, as if he wanted to burn this woman in front of him, who lied to his face like a second nature, into a pile of ashes. He roared, "Yi Huanyan, whose child is this? Can you say it clearly yourself?" Yi Huanyan's eyes were red, and tears slid down her cheeks from the corners of her eyes. "In your eyes, am I this kind of woman?" Ling Han's eyes trembled. The stalemate made every minute and second seem very long. "You think you're not?" Ling Han grabbed her shoulder with one hand and increased his strength, almost crushing her shoulder blade. She felt the pain and furrowed her delicate eyebrows, but she gritted her teeth and refused to make a sound. Ling Han looked at her, and a trace of hostility finally appeared in his eyes. He hated this look of hers the most. She was at the mercy of others, as if it was an insult to her to explain herself. But if she was really so virtuous, why did she go to a hotel with Sun Yanhua on the day of the New Year? And why was she in Gu Xinian's arms today? Wanton and despicable. Unrepentant. He used his other hand to lift her chin. His eyes were filled with hostility as he swept his gaze across her face and questioned her coldly. "What do they like about you? After sleeping with you for so long, you only have a few positions on the bed. It's so annoying. Or do you have more tricks when you're not with me?" She didn't say anything, so he wanted to provoke her into retorting. He bent down, but the hand that was holding her chin slipped. She turned her face away, her expression distant. A burst of anger that had been building up for a long time surged up from his chest as he suddenly grabbed her face. The back of her head hit the car door and was numb from the shock. He fiercely bit down on her pink lips, and the taste of blood spread in their mouths. Her body always had a fragrance that made him fascinated. Sometimes it disturbed him, but sometimes it made him feel at ease. He greedily sucked on her taste. Only at this moment could he let go of everything and admit that this person in front of him was his woman. The black woolen coat fell to the ground and was stepped on twice in a panic, but no one cared about it. Yi Huanyan clenched her hands into fists and desperately pounded on his chest, but it was like hitting a rock with an egg. It had no effect. Woo! Ling Han gave a groan and suddenly knitted his brows. He rubbed his thumb over his lips, and the bright red blood stain was a bit shocking. Yi Huanyan suddenly clutched her chest and bent over to retch violently. Ugh! Ling Han finally found his reason. His eyes fell on her lower abdomen, and the madness in his eyes returned to its initial coldness. He moved away and coldly looked at her from the side, without saying a word. After an unknown amount of time, she finally vomited until she was completely exhausted. She stood up with her hands on her knees and looked at Ling Han's indifferent expression. She finally used the last bit of her strength to shout out, "Why don't you believe me? I didn't do anything with them, nothing at all." After shouting, there was no response. She held on to the car door in a panic and staggered. She looked at Ling Han with a gaze that was close to despair. This man doesn't have a heart, she thought in despair. The sound of the door closing was heard. The remaining heat in the car gradually warmed her cold body. She didn't have the strength to resist and could only let him push her into the car. She collapsed in the back seat with a desolate expression. Ling Han sat next to her and didn't speak for a long time. In the car that couldn't start, the heat gradually dissipated and the temperature dropped. Yi Huanyan fainted as if she was extremely tired. She kept making choking sounds in her sleep, and some of her painful murmurs fell into Ling Han's ears. After a while, he seemed to have thought of something. He pushed open the door and picked up the coat on the ground. He brushed the dust off it and covered her up to her small nose. It covered the sound of her uncontrollable sobbing in her sleep. Under the coat, the thin body shuddered twice. She frowned and shouted, "Han, we have a child." Ling Han's eyes seemed to be moved. He looked at her delicate features in a daze for a moment, but in the end, his eyes dimmed bit by bit. This child couldn't be his. In the wee hours of the morning dew was heavy and the chill was invading. The continuous phone calls made the woman quite dissatisfied. She grumbled coquettishly, "Didn't you say you would accompany me?" Xiao Mu looked at her absent-mindedly. In a moment of carelessness, she snatched his phone and hung up. In the living room of a villa in Fujin Park, the tea was already cold. It was already early in the morning. He didn't sleep the whole night, and neither did the woman in his arms. Nothing happened. Many times, when she couldn't get through to Ling Han's phone, or when she couldn't ask him out for a meal, she would call his cell phone. Then he would put down everything in his hands and rush here to accompany her for the night. He just hugged her and listened to her ramble about some incoherent things. She was very smart and always tried to sound him out from these words, trying to get some confidence from him. It was all about Ling Han. In reality, Xiao Mu knew that for a woman like Sheng Anren, who would do anything to achieve her goals, as long as he wanted to, she would be willing. However, he had never crossed the line. Merely these intimate actions in the past few days already made him bear a heavy sense of guilt. He knew that Sheng Anren was not a good woman on the moral level, but he loved her beyond redemption, as if he loved a dark version of himself. "Xiao Mu, help me, okay?" The woman in his arms finally cut to the chase after a long-winded ramble. Her hands continuously groped his body, which was her usual teasing method. Xiao Mu's eyes froze, and he quickly grabbed her slender wrist. His voice was hoarse and contained a bit of false bravado as a warning. Anren. Her seductive eyes were like silk and possessed a soul-stealing beauty. At this moment, she was lying on his chest. Ignoring the wrist that he grabbed, she lowered her head slightly and lightly pecked his chin. Don't you want me? Chapter 214. Qiao Mu tightened his grip on her wrist, and his eyes abruptly changed. He stood up without a care, almost causing her to stumble as he said coldly, "You don't have to use this method on me." Sheng Anren was stunned, and her watery eyes were instantly filled with tears. She choked, "What can I do? What can I do? You told me. She's pregnant, so I can't do anything." Qiao Mu clenched his fists, and his face darkened. In the end, his heart softened because of her painful appearance. When he left behind a sentence. "Her pregnancy isn't necessarily a bad thing for you. Rest well and don't think too much. What's yours will always be yours." Sheng Anren held her red wrist and looked at the determined back until the back disappeared. Her delicate and pitiful face suddenly turned to one side, and a meaningful arc appeared on her lips. They were just men. They were all the same. Why were they pretending to be virtuous? The people Qiao Mu sent out found Ling Han when it was almost dawn. After Ling Han sent Yi Huanyan back to Jinjiang Court, he changed his clothes and went directly to the company. He did not mention her pregnancy to the servants at home, and it could be said that he barely said anything. In the office of the president of the pleasure group, Qiao Mu arrived at the office with a stack of documents. When he saw that Ling Han was already there, surprise flashed through his eyes. He slowly took a breath and then sent the documents to Ling Han's desk. The contracts with Director Wang and Director Li have been signed. The quarterly reports of the other branches are here. I've circled the areas with problems. My suggestion is that the companies with minor problems solve them themselves and call the person in charge to the headquarters for a meeting if the problems are serious. Also, this is Gu Xinyan's information. This is all I found so far." He put a craft paper bag in front of Ling Han with a respectful expression. Ling Han raised his eyes to take a look. He didn't seem to take it to heart as he spoke casually. He said casually, "You haven't rested after work recently. You've been busy with this?" Usually, when he called Qiao Mu outside of work hours to ask him to do something, he would do it himself. However, recently, Qiao Mu seemed to have asked others to do many things. Even when his car broke down last night, he did not personally pick it up. Qiao Mu was unperturbed. "The earlier we finish, the earlier we can implement the measures." Ling Han's eyes were filled with gratification. "If those people in the assistant team had half of your work awareness, my workload would have been reduced by half." Qiao Mu lowered her head as embarrassment flashed through her eyes. "If there's nothing else, I'll go out first. I still have some things to take care of at the prosecutor's office." When he reached the door, Ling Han's cold voice suddenly sounded behind him. "Qiao Mu." His footsteps paused, and he slowly relaxed his grip on the doorknob. He turned around, but he didn't dare to look into Ling Han's eyes. "What's wrong?" "Chief Ling, we've known each other for more than 10 years. I've never kept anything from you. All these years, I've always felt that there's no one I can trust around me, except for you." Qiao Mu's heart skipped a beat, and she hesitantly raised her head, only to discover that Ling Han was not looking at her. He was sitting behind his large desk with a pen in his hand. The documents on his desk were piled high, covering his chest. The pen in his hand tapped the craft paper bag intermittently, and there was a hint of confusion between his brows. "Too many people have betrayed me all these years. It seems that it's hard for me to truly trust anyone." Qiao Mu heaved a sigh of relief and said cautiously, "Chief Ling, in terms of work, one should indeed be wary of others. You're right about this. Is that so? Seeing is believing. It's enough to only believe what you see." Ling Han was silent for a couple of seconds when he heard this. A long while later, the bewilderment in his eyes completely disappeared. He finally recovered the decisive killing manner that he should have. His pair of cold eyes rotated gently before he spoke in a faint voice. "Contact the private doctors in the obstetrics department and take them to Jinjiang Court. Have Yi Huanyan do that child." When he mentioned the child, he paused for a moment, as if he could not bear to do it. However, Xiaomu did not notice his strange expression. Ling Han was adept at hiding his emotions. Even though he had been by his side for more than a decade, he still could not completely see through him. Jinjiang Court. When Yi Huanyan woke up, it was already afternoon. Her pregnant body was not like before, and her stomach was empty and growling many times. The fetus in her belly had long reminded her that it was time to eat, but because of the nightmare, she did not wake up for a long time. When she opened her eyes, she saw a familiar place. It was snow white, and the furnishings were even more monotonous than the hospital. This was the 1/3 room that belonged to her in Jinjiang Court. She did not know when she changed into her pajamas, and she did not even know how she came back. Yesterday, the cold wind was bone-chilling, and after she fell asleep, she kept having nightmares and could not wake up. "Miss Yi, you're awake?" It was Lingling's voice. Yi Huanyan supported herself on the stairs and looked at Lingling, forcing a smile. However, Lingling was very happy. She put down the lunch she was preparing and hurried upstairs to support Yi Huanyan, nagging non-stop. "It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. Miss Yi, you don't know how quiet the house was during the month you were gone." Young master almost didn't speak. Yi Huanyan was slightly taken aback. He is still living here during this time. She thought that after she went to prison, Ling Han would stay at Sheng Anren's place in Fujin Garden. Or perhaps he would bring Sheng Anren here. However, Lingling did not understand the meaning in her words. She scooped soup for her and said with a smile, "Of course, this is young master's house. If he doesn't live here, does he have to go out and live in a hotel? Young master is only occasionally not at home, but he comes back most of the time." Yi Huanyan did not comment, but when she lowered her head, her expression could not help but darken. "All right, Miss Yi, you have a fever. Remember to take your medicine after you eat." Lingling put the medicine box that she had prepared earlier on the table, and after reminding her, she turned and went into the kitchen. Yi Huanyan picked up the medicine box, stared at the instructions, and frowned. There was a line of words written on it that stood out to her at the moment. "Use with caution when pregnant." When she finished cleaning up the kitchen and came back, Yi Huanyan had already finished eating. She wrapped herself in a shawl and was sunbathing in the backyard corridor. The medicine on the table was untouched. "Miss Yi, don't you want to take your medicine?" she asked. Yi Huanyan responded with a simple yes. Lingling was stunned for a moment. She thought that every medicine had its side effects. The fever was not too serious, so it was not a big deal not to take the medicine. She did not say anything else and took the medicine away. Yi Huanyan sat on a chair in the backyard corridor. When the sun shone on her, some color returned to her face, but she still looked weak. She suddenly missed the days in prison. The villa in Jinjiang Court was very big, but to her it was like a huge cage, so stuffy and suffocating. When she thought of Ling Han's attitude last night, the uneasiness in her heart grew stronger and stronger. Chapter 215. It was dusk and it was evening. Yi Huanyan endured the various discomforts of pregnancy, ate dinner, and went upstairs early to rest. Ling came upstairs with a glass of milk and sat by her bed with a jacket. When she touched her hand, she was shocked by the cold. "Miss Yi, why are your hands so cold? I'll get you another blanket." Yi Huanyan shook her head. "It's okay. I'm not cold. That's just how my body is." She had a cold body since she was a child, but she had always been healthy. It was only because she was physically and mentally exhausted that it became so obvious. The heater was on in the room. It was already April, but she was still covered with a thick blanket. In fact, she was not cold, but her body could not warm up. Even so, Ling was still worried, so she simply added another blanket for her. "If it's still like this, you have to see a doctor." When Yi Huanyan heard the word doctor, she did not know why, but her body froze. Ling Han's words were still vivid in her mind. He wanted her to abort the child, so she was in a state of panic. "It's okay. She lowered her head to hide her panic. Her fingers touched her lower abdomen under the blanket, and she suddenly looked up and asked, "Ling Ling, can you go out and buy something for me?" Ling Ling was slightly stunned. "It's so late. What do you want to buy?" "Some medicine that I need to take regularly. There's a pharmacy near the community. I'll write it down for you." Ling Ling took the piece of paper that Yi Huanyan wrote and nodded. Although she was puzzled, she did not ask any more questions. The paper said progesterone, vitamin E, folic acid tablets. Ling Ling vaguely felt like she had heard the names of these medicines somewhere before. It was late at night. Not long after Yi Huanyan closed her eyes, she heard the sound of the door opening. At first, she thought it was Ling Ling, but when she heard the sound of heavy footsteps, her body trembled and she secretly gripped the blanket. Ling Han still carried the chill of the night. After entering the room, he took off his jacket and threw it on the sofa. The smell of alcohol quickly filled the room. Yi Huanyan frowned fiercely under the blanket. He stood by the bed, his eyes bloodshot as he stared at the figure, his entire body filled with hostility. Yi Huanyan had her back to him. She didn't dare to open her eyes or move. When she felt a weight on her body, she suddenly opened her eyes. The strong smell of alcohol almost suffocated her. She exclaimed and subconsciously turned her head to avoid his kiss. He was drunk and delirious. She smelled of another woman's perfume, vulgar and cheap. It was not Sheng Anren's. Ling Han clearly caught the flash of disgust in her eyes. Instantly annoyed, he pressed down on her shoulders through the blanket, making her unable to move. He asked, "You don't want me to touch you, do you? How clean do you think you are?" Yi Huanyan felt as if the blanket on her body weighed 1,000 kilograms. Her heart couldn't beat, and she couldn't speak, as if something was stuck in her throat. She could only stare at him with tears in her eyes. How could a drunk person be rational? Seeing that Yi Huanyan didn't respond, he lifted her quilt and began to peel off her thin pajamas. "Ah, no." She finally made a sound, patting Ling Han's hand, trying to stop his action. Ling Han impatiently clasped her hands and raised them high above his head. His scarlet eyes revealed a bloodthirsty light as he swept his gaze across her face that was about to cry. His voice was hoarse, cold, and cruel. "Didn't you say that this child was mine? I'll give you a chance to make up for what you haven't done before." Hearing this, Yi Huanyan's face turned pale. She desperately waved her hands, trying to stop his rough actions, and screamed, "No, no, I beg you, Ling Han, I beg you, don't touch me, don't touch me." Her manic attitude made the hostility in Ling Han's eyes even more intense. He reached into her pajama pants with one hand. Separated by a thin layer of fabric, he wantonly played with it for a while and soon felt something. With a click, a cold belt buckle was fastened on Yi Huanyan's wrist, binding her to the bedpost. Without any obstruction, he tore open her pajamas with a cold face and wantonly humiliated her delicate body. With the other hand, he pulled down her underwear. His scorching large member violently penetrated without any mercy. The pain of this forced penetration almost made Yi Huanyan faint, and the rapid impact that followed made her want to die. She screamed, struggled, and cold sweat flowed down her cheeks. But no matter how she cried and begged for mercy, she couldn't stop the most primitive animal desire of a drunk man at this moment. In the end, the belt buckle on the bedpost loosened, and Yi Huanyan's hand slipped, but she couldn't stop it anymore. She let the waves of impact below her body. She covered her lower abdomen, twitched in pain, and bit open her lips. She let the blood drip and spread on the clean white sheets, but she refused to make a sound. Only the man's muffled groans continued until he was exhausted, leaving a burst of warm impact in her scarred body. Just as he wished, he self-righteously made up for what he hadn't done before. The moment he climbed to the top, Ling Han's mind suddenly became clear, but the arrow was knocked on the string, and he had to release it. He finally did the last step, and then he got up to deal with his own body. There was only emptiness in Yi Huanyan's eyes. As he withdrew, she lost the support of her legs and fell on the bed sheet like a kite with a broken string. Immediately, She used the last bit of strength to quickly curl up on one side, trembling helplessly. Her smooth back was full of bruises. Her tattered pajamas hung on the side of the bed like a pile of rags. Half of it was covered by a head of black hair that poured down in torrents. Ling Han sat by the bed, smoking one cigarette after another. When Ling Ling came back, this was the scene. She suddenly covered her mouth, and the medicine in her hand spilled all over the floor, startling Ling Han. It also made the person whose back was facing the door suddenly shiver. Young master. Ling Ling didn't know what to do, but she couldn't avoid it. Scram. Ling Han spat out a word in a daze. The medicine on the ground was very eye-catching to him. Although he was awake now, he still had an impulse to press her on the bed and fiercely ask her if she wanted this child. The cold moonlight shone on the white bed. Yi Huanyan only felt dizzy, and the feeling was the same as the day before. In a daze, she lost consciousness. The next day, a private doctor in the obstetrics department came, and Yi Huanyan was so flustered that she almost suffocated. It wasn't until the kind-looking, middle-aged female doctor told her that she was just going to do a simple pregnancy checkup that she started to cooperate with the checkup. In the end, she didn't eat anything or do anything harmful to her body. Only then did she heave a sigh of relief. After coming out of the villa, the female doctor directly got into a car and said respectfully, "Miss Ling, 3 months have passed. The child is already more than 3 months old, and it's not suitable for an abortion. Also, Miss Ye's body is cold. If we force an abortion, she won't be able to have a child in the future, and it will hurt her body." In the car, Ling Han's face was as gloomy as water, and he didn't speak for a long time. For a long time after that day, Jin Jianjuan was extremely quiet, and the male owner of the house didn't appear again. Chapter 216. Blurg. In the washroom of Jinjiang Court, Yi Huanyan held onto the sink. This was the 5th time she had vomited today. She had vomited almost everything she had eaten. Sometimes she would feel nauseous just from smelling the food. Ling Ling stood by the side at a loss. When she finished vomiting, she took a hot towel and handed it to her. "Miss Yi, it's not a good thing to continue vomiting like this. Why don't you stop eating?" Yi Huanyan wiped her face. Her face was as pale as paper, but she shook her head and sat down at the dining table. She picked up a spoonful of braised pork, vegetables, and rice and put it into her mouth to chew. Ling Ling watched her frown with a serious expression. It looked like she was going to vomit every time. Ling Ling was even prepared for her to vomit again. However, Yi Huanyan only paused for a few seconds before swallowing stiffly. After a long time, she finally ate a mouthful of rice. She pulled the corners of her mouth and gave Ling Ling a comforting smile. Ling Ling was about to cry. She stomped her feet, held back her sobs, and walked to the kitchen. "I'll make you some light soup." She did as the doctor said. Even though the morning sickness was strong, Yi Huanyan forced herself to eat on time. Vegetables and fruits were fine, but meat was hard to swallow. She struggled to eat meat every day, but the diet therapy was effective. In the end, she managed to keep the baby in her belly. She could feel the heartbeat of the baby in her body. She could feel whether it was healthy or sick. In the days when Ling Han was not around, she was disappointed, but more than that, she was relieved. Night fell. In the luxurious private room of Lanjiang City's Golden Crown KTV, there was loud music and dancing. For the past few days, all the multi-talented male and female live streamers of the Shanghai branch of Pleasure Group had gathered here. After the restructuring of Hujiang Network Media Company, the TR Live streaming platform, which was the main platform, had received a lot of good reviews for the first quarter of the year. In addition, Pleasure had spent money to invite a lot of celebrities to use this platform for live streaming. Now, the number of people registered had far surpassed all the other live streaming platforms in the country. Even though other platforms could do the same, TR's predecessor was a software development company that had gathered a group of programmers. They had a lot of talent, And just the stability of the platform and the smoothness of the network were already one of the best among livestream platforms. They were superior in terms of technology. This time, TR's new manager, Wang Peizhou, had brought this group of online streamers to Lanjiang City for a meeting. As soon as he arrived in Lanjiang City, he was arranged to eat and drink to his heart's content and accompany Ling Han every night. This was a far cry from the rumored Ling Han, who was meticulous in his work. Wang Peizhou was recommended to Ling Han by the headhunting company. He did not even pass Ling Han's eyes and was directly arranged by Qiao Mu to be the general manager of Hujiang. This person was indeed talented. Under his management, TR was what it was today. This time, he came to Lanjiang City to report on his work, but in reality, he was here to officially meet Ling Han and officially acknowledge his position as the general manager. The matters of accompanying him to eat, drink, and play were all arranged by Assistant Xiao from the headquarters, so Wang Peizhou was happy and relaxed. In short, it was the boss's intention. He would not blame him, so he ate and played with him in peace. Seeing that Ling Han did not have any objections, he simply let the streamers on the platform change their performances. After accompanying him for a few days, Wang Peizhou realized that this boss seemed to be absent-minded. Although he ate and drank extravagantly, did not even blink when he signed bills, and did not show any disgust when surrounded by women, not a single woman could truly get close to him. President Ling, I'll toast you on behalf of the streamers of Hujiang TR. The person who spoke was the female streamer Zhou Weiwei, who had just finished singing. Her voice was very good, and she used to be a talent show singer, so she had a fan base. After Wang Peizhou entered TR, he took the initiative to recruit her. Ling Han held the wine glass and looked at her from afar. He knocked the bottom of the wine glass on the coffee table, which could be considered a toast. His attitude was slightly cold, but it was not to the extent that it would put her on the spot. Zhou Weiwei was also discerning. When she saw this, she no longer approached him. She smiled and drank the wine, then used the excuse of singing again. Sorry, I'm late. A sweet female voice came from the door of the private room. Ling Han was disturbed by this familiar voice and frowned. He looked in the direction of the voice, and a strange look appeared in his eyes. The girl at the door was not tall. She had a ponytail and only had light makeup on. She was wearing a wide school uniform. It was not the uniform of an aristocratic school, but was wide and large. It was the blue and white striped style of an ordinary high school. Although it looked a little rustic, it looked like mud among the colorful beauties. Wang Peizhou was naturally tactful and thoughtful to be able to get to where he was today. When he saw that Ling Han's gaze was different from usual, he quickly waved at the door. You're always the slowest. What's going on today? The girl walked in casually, wiping the sweat off her forehead. President Wang, I went to work so hard, but I still got scolded when I came back. Seeing the clothes she was wearing, Wang Peizhou thought of something and explained to Ling Han. This is Guagua, our TR's female streamer. She can bear hardships. Although she doesn't have many fans, she has the most live streams on our platform. Her affinity is also relatively high. She went to the live stream today, so she came back late. The name Guagua sounded familiar, but Ling Han did not take it to heart. He only stared at her wide school uniform in a daze. The wine was intoxicating. Under the swaying lights, some things that were too familiar became the focus. It could always make people ignore other things. When he looked at the school uniform, it was as if he saw a familiar face with a big smile. The corners of his mouth suddenly moved, revealing a rather gentle arc. In Guagua, who was about to propose a toast, was slightly stunned. His gaze was too focused and too gentle. Just one look was enough to make her drown in it. She even forgot how cold and cruel he was when they first met in Shanghai half a year ago. Guagua, what are you waiting for? Why aren't you toasting President Ling? Guagua suddenly came back to her senses. She held the wine glass and followed Wang Peizhou's path. She took the opportunity to sit beside Ling Han. She leaned on the corner of Ling Han's clothes and probed. President Ling, I'll punish myself with a cup. Is that okay? A trace of confusion flashed across Ling Han's eyes. Then he pulled her into his arms and whispered, "No need. I'll drink for you." The entire audience was in an uproar. Yin Guogua leaned into the wide embrace at a loss, enjoying the sudden gentleness. It was like a dream. God, if this is a dream, don't let me wake up. The music stopped abruptly, causing the private room to fall into a moment of silence. It was Wang Peizhou who glared at Zhou Weiwei, who was warming up the scene, and mouthed a reminder. Hurry up and sing. Thus, the private room returned to its original state of debauchery. Because of Ling Han's sudden act of eating the food of the mortal world, the extravagance was even worse than it had been 2 days ago. Zhou Weiwei sang absent-mindedly. Her eyes intentionally or unintentionally landed on the person in Ling Han's arms. Her gaze gradually tightened. For the first time in days, someone could sit beside Ling Han. Chapter 217. The next day, the news that the third-tier anchor Yin Guogua accompanied Ling Han, the president of the pleasure group, to get a room with him appeared in the headlines of the major entertainment sections like flying pieces of paper. Ling Han had always had a lot of scandals. In addition to Sheng Anren, he also had scandals with many female artists. Most of them didn't last long. Now it was not surprising that the scandals reappeared in front of everyone. However, many people complained about the injustice for Sheng Anren. They said that one left and another came. They were afraid that it was not so easy to enter this rich and powerful family. The only beneficiary was Yin Guogua. The number of fans on the TR platform skyrocketed. Many people were curious to see who had crushed a stunning movie queen like Sheng Anren. And Yin Guogua did have her own way to keep her fans. Just by relying on the affinity that Sheng Anren didn't have at all, the number of her fans increased several times. Feng Shang magazine. After Ji Xiaoya sent a batch of new clothes into Su Mang's office, she was inevitably scolded by Su Mang. Then she came out to change clothes with a gloomy face and a belly full of anger. When she passed by the cubicle, she caught a glimpse of the new intern of the company secretly watching the live broadcast on the computer. She bumped into the muzzle of her gun, so she stretched her neck and leaned over. Just when she was about to get angry, she suddenly saw the 2 words Ling Han on the live chat interface. A long series of comments dazzled people, but she still caught a few key messages. Guogua, what's the relationship between you and Ling Han of the pleasure group? Are you Ling Han's new girlfriend? You don't look the same as Sheng Anren. When seeing these, Ji Xiaoya was already furious. She suddenly pulled the earphone cord. The trembling voice of the intern was mixed with the coquettish complaint of the female anchor. Sister Xiaoyu, no. President Ling and I are superior and subordinate at work. We are just good friends. Don't get me wrong. These days, saying that they were good friends was basically admitting it in a disguised way. Ji Xiaoya glared at the intern fiercely. The 1.8-meter-tall intern was yelled at by Ji Xiaoya until her head drooped. Do you want to watch the live broadcast during work hours? Do you still want your job? I was wrong. I won't do it again, Sister Xiaoyu. Ji Xiaoya was usually easy to talk to, but her temper was particularly bad today. No one dared to underestimate her. The intern boy had a pleading look on his face. Don't tell the sister in charge of checking attendance. Ji Xiaoya glared at the phone and roared rudely. What kind of lousy live streaming app is this? Delete it for me. Also, look at your taste. You like this face of an online celebrity? How did you get into Fengshan? Ji Xiaoya was still holding a pile of clothes and muttering to herself as she left. Her sense of beauty is getting worse and worse. Is she King desperate for food? That evening, Fujin Court. Ling Han's sudden arrival surprised and delighted Sheng Anren. After the servant called to inform her, she hurriedly pushed away all the work at hand and rushed home as fast as she could to see Ling Han. But he looked like he was ready to leave. Han, I'm sorry. I'm a little busy with work. My leg injury hasn't fully healed, so I'm delayed, She had just changed her shoes, stood at the entrance, and looked at the figure in the living room, and hurriedly explained. Ling Han's face was indifferent. Just do what you need to do. Shang Anren changed into slippers, walked to him intimately, and took his arm. Since you're here, let's have a meal together? I'll cook. I'll cook it myself this time. Didn't you say you wanted to eat it before? Ling Han frowned and pulled his arm out of her hand. His eyes were very cold. Thinking of the news of the past 2 days, Shang Anren was a little unhappy, but she couldn't get angry. She pursed her lips and hesitated for a while. I've learned a few home-cooked dishes. Auntie said they taste good. Do you want to try them? Ling Han's eyes flitted across the door of a bedroom on the second floor, and his tone, inexplicably, became gentler. Okay. After entering the kitchen, Shang Anren's face completely fell. Although Yi Huanyan was pregnant, he had been living in a hotel for such a long time, and there had been a lot of gossip in the past 2 days. As Xiao Mu said, Yi Huanyan's pregnancy was nothing to worry about. But what was the matter with that online streamer? From the looks of it, Ling Han was still quite interested in her. Huan Yu had been on the hot search list for the past few days, but she didn't see Huan Yu remove her. She allowed this woman to shine in the news and become a thorn in her eyes. She asked Xiao Mu in a different way, but he was very tight-lipped and couldn't find out how far Ling Han and that streamer had developed. He just said, President Ling is a little interested in her, that's all. Shang Anren was annoyed. Since Ling Han came, it was a rare opportunity. Ever since Yi Huanyan went to prison, their relationship had been in a deadlock. She had to find a chance to take the initiative to show goodwill. Only then could the gap between them dissipate. Otherwise, she really didn't have any chance. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but put more effort into cooking. 3 dishes and a soup were served on the table. They looked good. The simple garlic stir-fried meat, shredded potatoes with green peppers, mushroom greens, and tomato and egg soup were home-cooked dishes to Ling Han's liking. Seeing that Ling Han ate a lot and seemed to be very satisfied, and even took the initiative to ask her about some work matters, Shang Anren couldn't help but feel a little proud. After following Ling Han for almost a year, she more or less knew what he had an appetite for. Naturally, it was not something that those new online streamers could compare to. Han, TR's live stream has been very popular recently. Why don't you let me help you promote it? Shang Anren lowered her head and pretended to ask casually as she picked up the food. Actually, I can help. Ling Han ate a mouthful of vegetables absent-mindedly. If you want to do it, then do it. You can also increase your affinity. It's a win-win situation, but don't do it too often. Shang Anren's eyes flashed with a strange look. She scooped a bowl of soup and placed it beside him as she asked carefully, I heard that many of TR streamers have come to Lan River recently. You've been busy with this for the past 2 days, right? I heard that there's a female streamer named Guagua recently. She's quite popular. Is she a newcomer that the company is strongly promoting? Shang Anren beat around the bush, but no matter how much she beat around the bush, she a target. In front of Ling Han, she was undoubtedly showing off her slight skill in front of an expert. Hearing this, there was a soft sound. He put down his chopsticks, and the gentleness and calmness in his eyes disappeared without a trace. He looked at Shang Anren with an indifferent pair of eyes. What else did you hear? Seeing that his expression was not good, Shang Anren hurriedly changed her words. Nothing. I'm just worried about your health. I've been dealing with a drinking party for the past 2 days. I don't mean anything else. You have your own ideas. I know. Ling Han looked at her with an even more indifferent gaze. The food in front of him was tasteless. He didn't say anything more. He got up and left, leaving behind 4 cold words. You think you're smart. Seeing that he was about to leave, Shang Anren was burning with anxiety. In the end, she couldn't help but question his back. Are you still blaming me for Secretary Ye's matter? The figure at the door paused for a moment. After a long while he said, It's just a gathering of some small artists. If you're interested, I won't stop you from attending. That female streamer had been in the headlines too often recently. She was too popular, and it was easy to be hated by others. She always needed someone to check and balance her in advance. It was better than falling into the hands of a business opponent. Chapter 218. After dropping that specious sentence, Ling Han's car drove away from the garage of the villa in Fujin Court. Sheng Anren stood at the gate of the courtyard without giving up. Finally, she didn't see Ling Han look back at her. She clenched her fingers, and there was a flash of jealousy in her eyes. She was just an internet celebrity who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth after just 2 days. She would like to see what kind of good she was. As night fell, there was no trace of light in other windows except for the living room. Lingling was cleaning up the garbage in the kitchen. When she came out, she was carrying 2 black plastic bags in her hand. When she saw the figure sitting behind the coffee table, she couldn't help but stare. Following Yi Huanyan's gaze, she saw the newspaper under the coffee table. She was secretly annoyed. How could she forget to put it away? Miss Yi, the things in the newspaper are all groundless. You can't take them seriously. Yi Huanyan raised her head and looked at Lingling with a smile. What she said made Lingling somewhat at a loss. She pointed to the photo of Yin Guagua in the newspaper and said in a flat tone, "I've seen this girl." She had seen her once in Hujiang. At that time, Ling Han was also there. Lingling didn't know what Yi Huanyan meant by this. She only saw that after she said this, she went upstairs alone with a very lonely look. She carried 2 garbage bags and went out to throw the garbage with a heavy heart. However, she saw a familiar car parked at the gate of the villa. It was Ling Han's car. He leaned against the door and smoked. It seemed that he didn't notice her existence. She followed his gaze and looked in the direction of the master bedroom on the 2nd floor. The faint light had just turned on. Lingling threw away the garbage and hesitated to go forward. "Young master, it's windy outside. Don't you want to go in?" Ling Han just saw her. "How are you these 2 days?" This question was not clear, but even if Lingling was a little careless, she also knew that this question was for Yi Huanyan. Miss Yi vomited quite badly. She only started to feel better today. She stays in the house every day and doesn't come out much. Her complexion is fine, but she doesn't seem to be in a good mood. She didn't know what to say and what not to say. She could only hesitate and say some things that she didn't think were important. She thought that men were soft-hearted. If she said that Miss Yi wasn't living well, the young master should be thinking about her a little. However, Ling Han merely frowned and exhorted, "Take good care of her. Call Xiao Mu if anything happens." The car slowly started and disappeared in the direction of the entrance of the neighborhood. Lingling stood in the same spot and looked up at the window of the master bedroom on the 2nd floor. She didn't know when the lights had been turned off. She sighed. These 2 people, one was stubborn and the other was tough. No one was willing to give the other a way out. She didn't know what the problem was between the 2 of them, but she could clearly feel that these 2 people cared about each other. Yi Huanyan went to bed early every day and fell asleep almost as soon as the lights were turned off. After being pregnant, she was always sleepy. If the doctor didn't ask her to walk more, she felt that she could sleep for a long time every day. But tonight, as soon as she closed her eyes, all she could think of was the never-ending gossip. He clearly knew that she could see it, but he still did it. It was just to humiliate her. In his heart, she would always be a fickle woman without any value of pity. In the dark of the night, Ling Han received a call from Ji Xiaoya not long after his car drove out of Jinjianjuan. The other party on the phone was naturally furious. He took off his Bluetooth headset and threw it on the car seat. He waited until Ji Xiaoya was done scolding him before he picked up the call again. "Ling Han, don't you have a heart? Yen is still in prison. It's bad enough that you didn't save her when she was dying, but now you're still fooling around with those women. Isn't one Sheng Anren enough?" Ji Xiaoya's voice was a little tired. Feng Shang had a lot of work, and working overtime was common. Looking at her, it seemed that she had been busy all day and had just gotten off work. He didn't know that she had seen the news and was suppressing her anger to scold him. Thinking of Yi Huanyan's current situation, Ling Han's brows flashed with a hint of depression. She's already out of prison. There was a pause on the other end of the phone for a few seconds, then suddenly exclaimed, "What did you say?" She was released from prison a week ago and is now living in Jinjianjuan. If you have time, go and see her. It's more useful than scolding me. His tone was a little cold, but what he said was really good for Yi Huanyan. She's out of prison? She's out of prison, but you're still fooling around. You. Without waiting for Ji Xiaoye to finish scolding, Ling Han hung up the phone, pulled off the Bluetooth headset, and threw it in the car. That night, Lanjiang City's Golden Crown KTV. It was already late at night, but it was the climax of every night's revelry. Men and women were swaying on the dance floor, wearing revealing clothes and acting boldly. It was normal. Tonight, Ling Han appeared a little late, but this didn't affect the enthusiasm of these people towards him, especially Yin Guogua. Today, Yin Guogua changed into a sexy outfit. These 2 days, Ling Han's attitude towards her was really good. Even her immediate superior, President Wang's attitude towards her was obviously better. He even gave her a lot of gifts, including many expensive bags and clothes. As soon as Ling Han entered the private room, he noticed Yin Guogua. She was sitting next to his usual seat. She was wearing a miniskirt and a strapless top. There was very little cloth covering her body, and her pair of white thighs were crossed. When she saw him, she quickly got up, and her pair of breasts trembled. Her face was filled with a warm smile. "President Ling, why are you so late? We've been waiting for you for a long time." Yin Guogua had a youthful appearance and a sweet voice. However, when she spoke, there was a bit of flattery in her voice, which made her sound very humble. She was completely different from the person in his memory. Under the dim light, she didn't see Ling Han's frown. As soon as he sat down, Yin Guogua took advantage of the situation and climbed up. She held his arm and asked in a coquettish voice, "President Ling, are we still playing dice today?" A strong smell of perfume assailed his nostrils. A trace of displeasure flashed across Ling Han's eyes, and he pulled his arm away. This action had already stunned Yin Guogua. She asked, "President Ling, are you unhappy?" Hearing this, Ling Han was a little absent-minded. It had been a long time since anyone asked him if he was unhappy or happy. It seemed that all the days were not happy, but also not unhappy. Everything was done step by step, and he didn't need to spend too much effort. For so many years, it was not for cooperation, but simply for this. Every night, there were very few moments for him to indulge in pleasure. He used to be very self-disciplined. He thought that he didn't need to rely on alcohol or flattery to reduce the loneliness of a long night. Yin Guogua didn't hear a reply, but was pulled into an embrace. Even if he didn't like the strong perfume on her body, even if she was only similar to him for a moment, he still deceived himself that with alcohol in his body and a soft jade in his arms, this night would be very fulfilling. They partied until 3 in the morning. Everyone was tired and gradually left. Unknowingly, there were only 2 people left in the private room. When Wang Peizhou left, he meaningfully told Yin Guogua, "Serve President Ling well, Guogua." You're tuning in to the Echo Reads YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.